the nature of the human race is that the human race has always believed it's known everything. Even the cavemen thought they had it all figured out, and they knew everything there was to know about everything, because that's where mythology came from. It's constructing some kind of context for the unknown.
It's so dense. Every single image has so many things going on.
It's irresistible. He's certainly the coolest, most rock and roll looking god that I have ever seen.
I would have waited an eternity for this.
Oh my god!
That little droid did it.
That's the surprise.
Oh my god!
Is this instead of
$5 for this? I hope it was worth it for one meme.
I was gonna ask, instead of supernatural encounters, is this like a Rick Oli unboxing video? You're just gonna.
I don't know if I'm gonna take him out of the box, because otherwise I'm never gonna remember who this is.
Hi, hello there. Hi, welcome. Hello Harry. Today we will be talking about Dark Greetings, Supernatural Encounters, the Trial and Transformation of Arhul Hextrophon, chapters 76 and 77. Initially, we were going to be talking about chapters 76, 77, and 78. But then when I read chapter 78, I realized that it was far too much for one stream, and that chapter 78 actually would constitute an entire stream's worth of material on its own.
True.
And that's what we'll be doing next week. We'll be covering chapter 78. Today, however, we're going to be covering about 2,000 years of galactic history in a more familiar era, from the time of the exiles at the end of the 100-Year War, all the way up to we're going to end around the fall of the Sith Empire and the golden age of the Sith.
Based.
Very cool. We'll be talking about it, later this evening. So Ken is going to be joining us a little later on, but until he does, I thought we could get started with some preliminary thoughts on chapters 76 and 77. Ensure that you don't mention chapter 78 in there. We're going to parse that out and just talk about these two chapters. I think chapter 76 is called Dynasties of the Depraved, and chapter 77 is, what is it? Was, if I recall, was like the materialist.
Nagasato meets the materialist magician.
That's right. Nagasato meets the materialist magician. We'll find out why he's a materialist magician later on. So yeah, why don't you start us off, Max? What are your thoughts on chapter 76 and 77?
Wow. So many great things, so many really fun revelations about the exiles and what happens to them in the immediate aftermath of the Battle of Korbos. We get some really cool, names for all of them, like Darth names. And, we knew all their names prior, but now we get their Sith titles and lots of SWTOR references, a lot of SWTOR characters. Really cool stuff with Tula Cord, because I really like Tula Cord. He's a cool character. He looks cool. And just a lot of really cool Sith stuff. And then it's so cool being in this familiar territory, because it feels like we just came from the unknown regions and now we're getting into known space. So we're gonna meet Naga Sadao and some really, really cool stuff. Really a lot of Sithy stuff. So if that's your jam, then you're gonna really love this.
Indeed. How about you, Al? Anything to add to that?
I did in fact really love this. I like the Sithy stuff quite a bit. Tales of Jedi. So outside of the original trilogy and perhaps the Clone Wars animated series, the 2003 one, of course, well, obviously, indeed, of course. The Tales of Jedi is my favorite Star Wars thing. It's between OT, Bane, Clone Wars 03, and that. So this is the stuff that I live for right here. We're getting into it.
Yeah. I will say that the original trilogy is and has always been my favorite pieces of Star Wars media. I doubt that's going to change anytime soon. However, really right under it, what I think really captures the spirit of Star Wars in a wildly fantastical way that looks completely different than the Star Wars we know, but has enough in there to to show us that it's recognizably Star Wars is Tales of the Jedi. And I mean all of it, like the Kevin J. Anderson stuff, the Tom Veitch stuff, all the art by Chris Gossett and Dario Carrasco Jr. And I know I'm forgetting someone else. It's just amazing. Yeah, it's just amazing, amazing stuff. And I just love Tales of the Jedi. It's my favorite part of the expanded universe. My favorite expanded universe stories are in Tales of the Jedi. That has never changed in nearly 30 years of reading these stories, and I doubt it's going to change anytime soon. So these chapters, specifically 77 and next stream when we talk about 78, were crucial to me because it's my favorite part of the expanded universe. And so obviously I want to see what Supernatural Encounters has to say about that. And there were some things that were really interesting that I didn't really think were coming. And I'm kind of looking forward to unpacking them with you guys today.
Yeah, Tales of the Jedi is awesome.
Yeah. You know what I will say, though, is that I think these days I can count on like one hand the amount of people that I've met online who don't like Tales of the Jedi. You know, maybe they don't love it. Maybe it's not their favorite, but don't at least like it. I think as it's one of those things that, you know, in Star Wars, it's so hard to find something that's universally beloved or universally accepted. But Tales of the Jedi comes close too.
And there's a reason they stole the name for one of their animated series.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about Filoni.
That's fair.
Tales of the Jedi is my personal second favorite Star Wars comic after Legacy 2.
Legacy 2. Okay, wow. Yeah.
The Tales of the Jedi is amazing. So.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. Y'all know. I love.
Yeah. So we can get right into it. Chapter 76 starts at the end of in the aftermath of the 100-Year War. The 12 Jedi exiles, as they've come to be known, are essentially exiled from Republic space. And I had a question about it on the Discord. I said it was curious to me why they exiled them and didn't execute them, right? And I think there's obvious mentions of Jedi clemency in the sources, but Edward, one of the editors, had brought up a good point that at least some of the exiles, the Black Legions, kind of joined in the fight against the Khor Danner's forces in the 100-Year War, and so likely received some clemency on as a result of that, right? Because they did help out against, I think, was it called like the Way of the Dark or something like that? His faction. In any event, they received clemency, right? They're basically loaded up onto a ship with like stun cuffs and sent off into deep space.
And it was the Dark Path.
It was the Dark Path. Okay, thank you. Yeah. I was actually trying to look for a picture of it because I have a site with like an Imgur site with all the pictures of the book, but that one apparently isn't on there. So I'm just gonna have to pull up my book copy and we can talk about it. I have some theories on who's who. Yeah, I know. Tales is a popular word, right? Al just gets more relatable with every stream. Yeah, that's right. Well, Al is he's the everyman amongst us.
Like my buddy, my good friend. Go back over there.
I should bust out my Max Rebo band action figures.
They should fight.
Oh, Lawa.
Fight, but they should.
The 12 Lost Jedi sounds like a biblical nod to the 12 tribes of Israel. So it's technically 10 lost tribes. Yeah, I mean, and 12 is a significant number, right? And in various religious and non-religious sources, right? You have, of course, the 12 apostles, and the 12 lost tribes, things like that. So it's one of those nice, neat numbers that really kind of maybe has like some significance to it beyond just being a simple number. Yes.
Well, I
So-
figured he was wearing his armor.
Yeah, so we find out Tulak Horde. I think maybe do we already know this, that he's a Runian? And
Okay.
Runians look like Pantorans, and I
Mm.
understand that there were Runians that were later retconned into being Pantorans in the Clone Wars cartoon by Filoni and Lucas.
Yeah, and you know what's like interesting is like when we hear about like Carnus Mur's death, and in Legacy we actually see like an image of him like dying, and then there's like a blue-skinned individual standing above him. So it's Tulak Horde.
Yeah, that is Tulak Horde, and we find out that's exactly how that goes down.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, we're told that the Sith civilization under the harsh rule of Hakagram Grash has begun to tarnish. Right, he's not the ruler that his father was.
Yeah.
And all of the 12 exiles who were in sour moods were loaded up onto a single ship in force-dampening chains and sent off beyond the borders of the Republic to endlessly soar the space lanes. But they managed to get out of their chains, as all good Sith do. And they're told about a planet called Korriban by Sorza Sin.
Yep.
Korriban, Boudica complained in response to Sin's announcement. Where in the blasted galaxy is that? It's one of the homeworlds of the old Sith, Sin replies. And then she reveals that it's ruled by a tyrant named Hakagram Grash. He's the son of Dathka Grash, who had been Darth Dreadwar's right-hand man. And no greater brute have you met. And then Boudica is like, I suggest we make a grand entrance. So I assume all 12 of them are going to be like landing on Korriban and on giant pterosaurs. I'm kidding. Can you imagine? Just doing
They're like any good
yeah.
They're like any good D&D party. They kick open the doors and kill the tavern keeper.
That's right.
And then get a room.
But they are going to make an entrance nonetheless, right? And we also find out actually that they've have some weapons stored in which I assume are lightsabers, are stored in the ship with them, and probably that there were some people that were sympathetic to their cause that they had tricked into storing these weapons on the ship.
Yeah.
Boudica used persuasion on sympathetic guards to stow weapons away on their transport vessel. We're told that the exiles had expected the Korribani to have maintained the teachings of Dreadwar and Grouch, but were surprised to find that they'd returned to their old beliefs. Also, King Hakagram was far from popular with Krev or his people, Krev being, I think, what was it, like a captain or something like that. A detail Ajunta Paul would use when taking the place of the king and speaking to an honor culture in which strength was held in the highest regard, but petty bullying was despised. So that was kind of interesting to me, that Hakagram Grash was not at all respected by his contemporaries, and perhaps even loathed, because it kind of makes sense if he's like a brute or a tyrant, but also it sets the stage for the Dark Lords, as they later become known, the 12 Jedi exiles, to take over. Right. Yeah. Why are the Sith on Korriban and not Dromund Kaas? When did they get pushed off? Why did Korriban become more important before the 12 Lords? Well, I think what happened was, we're going back several streams, but there was a war on Dromund Kaas. Where Darth Soros, right? Daritha Soros, as he was called then.
My boy.
The Killik Sith. He drives off those like Lich Kings, the true Sith or whatever, and I think they relocate to the unknown regions, planets like Rand. Maybe one of the editors can help me out here if they're watching. And then also there are like two factions of the Sith, and one of them lives on Korriban. I think if we go back to the time of King Adis, then it was Adis who made Korriban his like planet, his base of operations. And I think Dromund Kaas was kind of like lost to time to a certain extent, because it gets kind of rediscovered in the SWOTOR era, or right before the SWOTOR era, actually right after the Great Hyperspace War by Vitiate. But suffice it to say that I think when the Rakata invaded, eventually sort of the Sith had moved to Korriban, and I need to go look that up and brush up on my lore. But yeah, it's surprising to me to find out that Grosh was not at all the revered king that you think that he is, right?
I swear, like, I feel like that was something that was like in some sort of lore that he was like not liked amongst his people and that they took advantage of. I feel like I don't know if that was something that was previously established in something else, but I don't know. I might be tripping on that one.
It might be in Book of Sith or
Yeah, it could be.
Evil Never Dies, the Abel Pena article, because like so much of this is so much of the Sith background is in those two sources, right? As well as a lot of information on the exiles. And we also find out, true to lore, like we would have already known this prior to Supernatural Encounters, that Hakagram Grosh is challenged by the 12 Jedi exiles and specifically beheaded.
Yep.
By Ajunta Paul, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah. What adds an interesting layer to all of this is that these aren't the primitives. And I think I had asked Max, maybe I asked it last time, but like these aren't the primitives that you kind of thought that they were, because they'd already been visited by Darth Dreadwar.
Yeah. And
beforehand.
kind of like that.
Right.
Yeah.
This isn't the case of 12 exiles from an advanced civilization finding some primitives and basically enslaving them and making them their thralls, right?
That's kind of what we had believed previously. Yeah. Which I think it's better because I don't know, it feels like more like the Sith way, like to instigate this kind of revolt, But I mean, both ways are also the Sith way. Like if you enslave this population or if you instigate a revolt against their leader. So I guess it could go either way. But I like this idea that it was like already a society that was kind of going on, and then they come in and they're like, oh, well, now we're going to take over.
Right. And it's already steeped in the dark side too. And that was the case even before Supernatural Encounters, because if you think about King Adis and liberating Korriban from the Rakatans, and he was a dark side user, right? He was like one of the earliest kings of the Sith, right? So I mean, it makes sense to me. Like I'm not at all upset by the fact that
I've kind of gone back and forth about it. I think I prefer this now. I think I prefer the idea this was a coup rather than just like a conquest.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's a little cleaner, and it lines up better with like the miscellaneous sources in this era. Yeah,
right.
I think I prefer that as well.
It's very much Ned Stark moment. They just kind of cut his head off and like instigate this whole like coup, and Robert Baratheon dies, and then.
But either way, like there's a ready-made evil society for them.
Yeah.
Right. And evil might be a bit of a reductionist term in this case, but a ready-made society steeped in the dark side of the Force. And I am going to share my screen because then we get lore dump on the 12 different Dark Lords.
We also like the Korriban people like believe the exiles are like the avatars of like the old ones, you know?
Hailed as avatars of the ancient ones and emissaries of the great old ones. And they bestowed on them the title of Dark Lords of the Sith. Very much so. I mean, with a tyrannical ruler and there's no real. I mean, it doesn't look like there's a ton of technology on Korriban either. So, okay, let me share screen. We can talk about it.
Ooh, I love this stuff.
Oh wait, I forgot to share screen. My bad. There you go. Okay, so can you see it? All right.
Yeah.
The 12 Dark Lords would later come to be known in history as Ajunta Paul, King of Korriban and Ziost, the left hand of Typhagim, Zozan, Marchianus of the Black Legions and Queen of the Anzat, Karnas Moor, Lord of the Rakghouls, Tulak Horde, Master of the Undying, Lord of Hate, Dichira and Mot Ontar, the Black Armored Brothers of the Black Legions, Remulus Drapa, the Baron of Singia, Randon Rel, the ruin of Aggregaria. I call him Random Rel because he's just he's
Call
like
him
the one that's
Brandon
least
Ralph.
expanded upon. So
Yeah,
Sorza's Sin, the sorceress of Sigil.
Darth Sanguinist.
Darth Sanguinus, that's right. Brudica.
I like that.
Majestrix of Lehon, Darth Judicar. Bo Vanda, priestess of Iridonia, Darth Simi. I always forget that Bo Vanda is Darth Simi. And then Orton Sella, Lich King of Prakith, and this is a name that's very familiar, Darth Endedu.
Dedu.
This is
What is
we were
he?
talking about this last time.
Yeah.
Remember when I had said like Ortan Sella's like someone y'all would know, and then like oh, we'll save that for next time.
I
and-
didn't see it coming, and I'm glad that you didn't spoil me because that's pretty sweet. That was
Yeah,
that was I mean, it makes sense because like something like Tulak Horde and Darth Endedu, like we always wondered like where do they come in
Yeah.
the timeline, right?
Well, just for clarification, I guess for both my sake and the audience. So let's go through these one more time. So Juntapal, he comes from Knights of the Old Republic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Zozan, where does she come from?
She was, I believe, mentioned either in Book of the Sith
She's in Legacy too.
or Legacy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Legacy. So she trained Crate.
So and then
That's right, of
Karnus
course,
Mur,
Is Legacy.
he's from Vector.
Yeah, he's from Legacy. Yeah, Vector.
Yeah. Well, they're all the same.
Yeah, the Moor Talisman. Yeah, okay, Vector across the 4 different titles. It was like
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
It was a KOTOR, Dark Times Rebellion, and Legacy.
Yeah. I was gonna say I was gonna say KOTOR. I was like, no, wait, he's in a lot of things.
Yeah.
He's from like he kept showing up. They couldn't get rid of him.
Yeah.
Tulak Horde. Is he also from KOTOR, or was that? Or what is
I
he
think
first
Tula
mentioned?
Cord was
I know he's in KOTOR. Well, his
might have been
like
Swotor,
helmet.
or I don't know. Was it Swotor where he was given like a name?
Tulak Horde.
You see, yeah, you see his helmet or face mask or something in Knights of the Old Republic.
There's a ton
I
of
don't know.
SWOTOR Tulak Horde stuff, but I don't know where
Yeah.
he originates from.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess that Zozan would be like Lord Eosphoros, right? That sort of like dead vamp. Maybe I don't know. Like I don't know. Maybe Zozan would be more appropriately like Lothan, right, or something like that. But Tulak Horde was in KOTOR 1. Hey, Titus, good to see you, man.
Hey, what's up, Titus? I didn't even realize.
So, and Dedu, as we find out in Supernatural Encounters, Titus, and Dedu is one of the 12 under a different name, but eventually becomes Darth, and Dedu is one of the 12 Jedi exiles, and essentially uses, as we're going to see, a ritual to extend his life, but as kind of like an undead Lich King.
Yeah.
So that's why he looks the way that he is.
He doesn't have like a specific like timeline like on Wikipedia, like where he was born, and neither does Tulak Horde. And like what's cool is that Tulak Horde one of his apprentices is listed as Ortan Sella on Wikipedia.
Oh, really? On Wikipedia? Okay.
Hey!
So, yeah.
So they
That's cool.
Wikipedia recognizes them as two different people, but they are the same.
Yeah. Tulak Horde's tomb is in both KOTOR games.
Okay. I
Darth
didn't
Simi
remember
is
for
from
a
the
second.
original Visions, Star Wars art Visions. That's cool. I'm glad that we have people in the audience that are well versed in Sith lore. They can tell us this. But
What about the Ontar brothers? Are they?
I think
what
I
about
think
them?
that the end notes mention that they're original creations, the Ontar brothers. They're named after contributors.
Oh, okay.
We was known about him when he was chased off Korriban. It's not implied to be the same. Well, it isn't. It happens like
Much later.
Decades later.
Yeah.
And that also is covered in Supernatural Encounters. He is chased off of Korriban and relocates to Prakith.
Mm-hmm.
But it happens decades, maybe even centuries later. We're not really given a timeline, but certainly not in the same era as when they arrive. Like he basically goes off to war with Tulak Horde, as we're about to see very soon.
Yeah. And then Jesse there has a really interesting comment.
I love this Kreia line, by the way. Tulak Horde, yeah.
No, that's right.
This one, about visions.
Like the visions, like the new visions, or something else.
Visionaries? Is he talking about Visionaries, the comic?
No, Star Wars art. I think Visions. Isn't it a?
I think it's something else. Never
like
mind.
an art book
Oh,
or
wow.
something
When
like
I
that.
see visions, I'm like, oh shit, like, you know.
But yeah, to return to this, it happens much later in the narrative. It's just
Yeah.
that he is originally one of the 12 exiles.
And there's also something later on that we're going to cover that might actually connect to the real Star Wars, like the canon Star Wars visions, I think, is a theory I had. And I was like, huh, is that who I think it is? So,
Yeah.
well, we'll get
Let's pull up the picture and we can try and guess who's who.
yes.
Um,
And then there was also other stuff after the list of names, but I'm sure we'll go back to that.
oh yeah, we will. Is this I guess this might be in like the minutes after Hakagram is beheaded. Let me just Swotor gives Tulakor a bunch of lore and we see his spirit. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, here it is, this magnificent piece of art, which I would love to have in my home.
Wow.
Kind of hard to see. I can blow it up a bit and focus on different parts of it, but I will guess right here and now that this dude with the red with the sort of like red fire rising from his hands, that looks to me like it could be either Carnus Moore or Remulus Drapa, because they are sporting the exact same haircut in Legacy in the flashback scenes.
Yeah. I think the one with the tall hat, like
this one is Andedu.
Yeah, because Andedu wears like
Yeah.
a hat kind of like
Orton Sella. Yeah, he has that mitre.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that these two guys on either side are the brothers Onter, Moat and Dachir. Yeah.
I could see, yeah.
Yeah, because they're the in their black armored, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the one with the yellow eyes, I believe, is Sorza Sin, is she not?
Maybe.
In the middle?
I think that could be. The one up there, that's Zozan, I think.
Where? Up here in the back?
Yeah. Or no,
in the
one,
doorway?
Either that one or the one like with the kind of two things popping out of the shoulders on the left.
Oh, on the left? Yeah, that makes sense. And then this one in the middle, I think, is a Junta Paul.
Yeah.
And then right next to him, this is probably Carnus Moore.
Yeah.
I want to say that is.
Yeah.
Tulak Horde is this one in the blue over here, down here, with the blue lightsaber. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this is Sorza Sin. Who's this? Who are we missing?
Vovanda and Brutica.
Brutica, Vovanda, and Random Rel.
Yeah, Random Rel.
That guy should play Superman.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell. I think, probably.
The one with
I don't know. The one on the one on the right, in the middle right, that's beside the purple lightsaber. Woman is looks like a woman.
Yeah.
Almost.
Jesse says the one with the bandages is Zozan. Let's see which one with bandages. I'm looking at my book right now. And the books like have a less high definition picture than the screen.
Oh, the bandages.
Yeah.
Maybe Jesse can tell us.
And then
here.
Logan says Zozan being in doorway is fitting because of her.
Belia
Yeah,
Darzu.
okay. So that's what I was thinking. That Zozan was the one in the doorway.
Yeah, blue lightsabers. Okay, the one with the bandages and Zozan. Okay, the one in the doorway. Perfect. Okay. Yeah. And then Zozan being in the doorway is fitting because of her cautious nature. Yeah, I mean, she was the one who tried to root out Darth Dreadwar, right? As we saw in the last stream. Here, let's go back to it because I'm fascinated by this. I know we're probably spending way too much time on this.
No, it's awesome.
Yeah, this is the fun part. This is where the fun begins.
And the brothers look awesome like that.
Yeah, and they're like sort of on either side too. Do you see this this Typha Gem-esque Cthulhu statue on the right hand side?
Love
yeah,
that.
That's so cool. And then so coming back to this,
and you'll notice it's on Typha Ajudapal's left hand side.
Damn. You're right. So if we think the miter guy is Orton Sella, which I think makes a certain amount of sense. Bovanda, priestess of Iridonia. So this, I almost think like the priestess, like with the headdress over here. Maybe Bovanda is one of these two with like kind of that like Egyptian striped head thing.
Yeah.
One of them is Randon Realm, and I would guess that Brutica is probably in this with these shoulder pauldrons.
Yeah.
I mean, she is brooding under in that shade. So
Yeah. God, we need some clarity on this eventually. Yeah. Okay.
We named all the immortal gods, and now we gotta name all 12 exiles, and all their names to fit their pictures.
It sucks for people who are just listening to this and not watching the screen, and we apologize. Should have a yes, exactly. We need to know. So Logan says SE should have a plates page that names and describes each image. Yeah. There is some other images that I do want to show before we move on from this section, though. This, I believe, is one of the pieces of concept art that was eventually, I think it might still appear in the book, I think in the back, but it didn't make it into the narrative proper. This, of course, is, yeah. Have you not seen this before, Max?
No.
So this
I've not seen this
before. They're landing not on pterosaurs as I had wanted, but
only
in that
can have such an entrance.
Yeah, in that passenger ship, and this is kind of they're landing on Korriban in the Valley of the Dark Lords, right? Is there a cooler? Sorry, I think Korriban is my favorite Star Wars planet. Is there a cooler planet out there than Korriban? I don't know.
So awesome.
Me personally, I love Yavin 4 and
sure,
and Coruscant.
That's a good one too. Yeah,
Yavin, because
I hear Coruscant is one big city.
Yeah, yeah. But Yavin is just like, I don't know. Yavin feels like home now because of reading Young Jedi Knight. So it's like Yavin, like that's my jam.
Man, you must have hated Edge of Victory then.
I know. I was so sad.
Hey.
Oh, hey. Sorry. I didn't say
Yavin the planet is okay. I'll give you that. That's it. So
Choppa Chowa.
All right. Yeah. All right.
I love every single time. Thank you. Yes, we agree.
He's not wrong.
Tatooine is dry ASF.
Yeah.
So I was about to say, I was about to agree with Marcel there a second ago. Korriban, first time entering the Valley of the Dark Lords in KOTOR is one of my favorite things I've ever done in a Star Wars game or otherwise. It was so cool seeing the thing from the comic realized, like we'll be able to walk around, go into the tombs, go into Naga Sadow's tomb and beat the teacher, whatever his name is. I don't know what his name is. It doesn't matter.
Have you played Korriban in SWTOR as well?
Yes, I was about to say.
It's just as cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's so cool. Every time I was about to say in KOTOR 2, it's awesome. It's like it's deserted. There's no one there. It's so creepy. And then in SWTOR, it actually looks good. Like it doesn't look like a game from 2003.
I've been to Korriban too, but not in either of those games because you go there in Jedi Academy on the last mission,
of course,
where you fight Marka Ragnos, and it looks more like the Tales of the Jedi iteration, where it's like a very more like tannish color instead of red, because looks like that. But I've been there and it's pretty nice there. The temples are a little tricky and they're very close quarters, but Marka Ragnos has a very luxurious tomb.
You made a good accounting of yourself, did you, when you were on Korriban?
I kicked the crap out of Marka Ragnos' spirit like 20 times.
So funny.
It is.
What is Brudica's association with Lehon? We will find out. We were Max, we were talking about this a little earlier.
Yes, we were.
Sorry, I don't want to jump ahead too far. I did want to read something on page 811, and my page number should be correct this time because I'm using the older version. No longer heresiarchs, nor even Black Legions, Dark Path, or Warlords. The exiles now rename themselves the Dark Jedi, or Gen Jedi. And as they began breeding and expanding their influence, their empire was called the Jendakth.
space.
This conquest was accomplished fairly easily once they had the Massassi warriors that numbered in the millions, and the Starforge of Abo to create droid armies and fleets of ships. But they knew their real power came from the dark side, from the alchemy that could bring forth monstrosities and dark magic that reanimated the dead. So the Starforge bit, I think, is like KOTOR, because Ajunta Paul alludes to the fact that he had access to the Starforge at one point in time. There was also there's that footnote 205.
This is so cool. I
for
love
the Gendoth. Why don't you read it for us, Max? The footnote 205.
Gendoth. This translates to Dark Empire, Shadow Empire, or Hidden Empire. Darth Sidious drew on the name for his own final regime, connoting his planned transition from a secular galactic empire to an explicit dark side theocracy and renewed golden age of the Sith. Lumaya rejected the reborn Palpatine's legitimacy for having shed the trappings of the Sith path, much like his forebear Vitiate. So
awesome.
Dark Empire. So you can call it Star Wars Gendoth instead of Star Wars Dark Empire.
And,
so
Logan points out to us that his profile picture symbol is the Dark Empire symbol.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was rereading. Oh yeah.
Roll credits. What are we? Some kind of Star Wars Dark Empire? Harry says.
I just rewatched that movie not too long ago because I've been going through. Well, I rewatched the new one because I'm trying to watch a bunch of James Gunn movies to get me hyped for Superman, as if I couldn't be anymore. Anyway, I was rereading the Tales of the Jedi, Golden Age of Sith and Fall of the Sith Empire. In Fall of the Sith Empire, I think this is issue 4. I don't actually remember now. There's a scene on Coruscant where the Jedi are fighting the various Sith, and it's going to be reversed from here. But he says, "We will drive the Sith back to their dark empire."
Roll credits.
There we go. So,
roll credits.
So, so either coincidence or that was intentional on the part of of Father Joe. Either way, very cool.
So Jesse says Kira from New Canon also technically draws on it too. It's her version of Crimson Dawn is also a hidden empire. Yeah, as we find out in the comics.
Yeah. I remember when that comic was coming out, and me and you would discuss it.
Yeah, that's right.
Every time it would come out.
That's right.
Was it any good at all? Even like 1% good.
Let's focus on the positive.
Yeah.
So we find out on page 813 that Remulus Drapa is restless, right? I think after a few years.
Oh wait, hold on. Sorry.
So did we skip over something?
Yeah, I just want to mention here. It says, regarded then as the greatest duelist of the era, Tulakord agreed to take on Ortan Sella, who had lost his previous master in the Battle of Korbos, as an apprentice. And it was widely considered that Tulakord was like this great swordsman. And obviously we know Wikipedia's, and I believe it's established in SWOTOR that Ortan Sella was his apprentice, and now we know it was Anderu. I just thought that was cool because like he is apparently the greatest swordsman of this era, and that's always been like his claim to fame. Like you see a bunch of YouTube videos like, oh, like this powerful Sith Lord you've never heard of is the greatest duelist since like, Yoda or something, So it's cool.
Darth Sidious brought that up earlier in the chat. The Kreia quote, Tulakord is the greatest swordsman, whatever she says. She says a lot of things.
Yeah.
She I believe Kreia specifically says that Tulakord could take on a horde of Skandits and win. Hence how he got his name. Hence how he got his last name.
Now that you say this, maybe Kreia is not so bad. Maybe she has the right ideas here.
Also, it says Tulakord begins developing like artifacts to like extend their lives using like Itzu Ashmad.
I love all these words: Itzu Ashmad, Orkfrum, Rakfrum.
Yeah, Rakfrum.
I feel like every time I say them, I'm going to summon a demon into my basement or something like that.
But so that explains why the exiles are around for so long and why Anderu's around for long after them, and then that's why like the timeline.
That's right.
He's much after them.
I will say that Remulus Drapa with the cornrows haircut is like one of my least favorite the exiles because he's such a punk.
He is. He's such a jerk.
See, There you
Kreia
go.
says that Revan herself, Nihilus, and Scion are children playing with toys in comparison to Tulak Horde.
Man,
Yeah, I mean, well,
do that to Revan's face.
Tulak Horde.
She would.
I love
Yeah,
his
she would.
Sith name when he takes on his Darth title later
Oh,
on.
he sounds so cool.
Yeah,
He sounds like a Spider-Man villain.
he does. Which, we'll get to that.
He
But
does.
but before we get to that, we have to first, or Joe has to first explain why the Jedi in Tales of the Jedi know about the Sith Empire in what is it, Golden Age of the Sith. How are they able to speak about
Yes.
this lost Sith Empire? This is a massive plot hole.
All of this will be explained in Supernatural Encounters 2, coming out in 2025.
No, it was explained even before Supernatural Encounters. It was explained by John Jackson Miller in Lost Tribe of the Sith Spiral, which is the comic that follows Lost Tribe of the Sith. Yeah, we find out that some of the exiles left the Stygian caldera and attacked the Republic. And that is how the Republic comes to know about the various exiles and where they ended up in the Sith Empire.
Yeah. Look.
At the same time, Joe helps smooth over the narrative because we have references of Tulak Horde kind of fighting the Republic at various points in time. How can that happen if he's stuck in the Stygian caldera? Well, we're about to find out. Only Drapa and the Osborne family can rock the corner. Yeah, exactly. What incantation summons a cop? Well, speaking of which, I had a funny interaction about Escape from Dagu today. I'm just gonna mention it because it's funny. Sorry, Chris Nelson. He's always like trolling me about Escape from Dagu, and he had sent me a voice note today about something completely unrelated, and I said, Chris, I couldn't hear the voice note. It came out all garbled. And he's like, oh, man, I was giving you the URL for Escape from Dagu. I was like legitimately laughing out loud as I was reading this. I was like, thanks for trolling me continuously.
I'm telling you, he's got it somewhere locked in his basement.
That's okay. One day we'll find it. We'll find it in his basement. How the Jedi know about the Sith Empire is explained in Evil Never Dies. Yeah, in Jedi versus Sith, the essential.
He's probably recorded it in a holocron or something. I'm telling you.
Oh, Chris, now, yeah, well, we'll see. So Drapa wants to attack the Republic. He's not content to just rule over this empire of slaves.
Bro is yapping.
He says we need but to embrace the teachings of the dark path as we once had, ally again with the cold coil, and reconnect with our brethren out in the unknown reaches. He means the true Sith, and we can accomplish this in so much war. And Zozan asks, "Are you so desperate to return to the lap of dread war after you know what he did?" Drapa says his betrayal was abhorrent, but that doesn't make the dark path wrong. We can learn nothing more from these provincial Sith. So he has a certain amount of disdain for them, right?
I love this interaction. You know what we should do? We should do exactly what got us here in the first place. Come on, boys.
Yeah. Ajinta, I know, right? It's so fun. Well, you know, they say insanity is doing the exact same thing over and over and expecting different results. So he says, perhaps, but it may be that this dark path is what led Dread War to madness. This is what Ajinta Paul says to him. I do not see his methods as an example for us to follow. And Draper says, I'm not mad. I have no desire to raise a monolith and drain Korriban to become a god. The dark path can lead us to victory over the Republic. Ajinta Paul doesn't want to do this. He's like, we have to think about this before we rush into war. I will not condone a course of action that will lead my people to war. That's what Ajinta Paul says.
I will not condone a course of action that is the exact same as the action that just failed.
Just a bunch of Phantom Menace memes.
But he brings up a good point. He's like, despite the fact that we had numerous warlords, trained members of the Black Legion, and the Dark Path at our command, we still lost last time. So what makes you think we'll win this time?
We have the Starforge.
The traitor of Alderaan is right. Rel, they call Randon Rel the traitor of Alderaan. I need to know what's the lore there. He was, I guess, an Alderani who betrayed his people. You know who was also from Alderaan and like no one ever talks about it? Ulick and Kay Keldroma are from Alderaan.
Oh, that's right.
That's true.
Yeah. Nobody ever talks about it. Maybe they're related to Randon Rel.
Maybe. Oh my god.
Brandon Rel Keldroma.
Oh no. Oh no. He's getting cast as Superman in the worst
communications disruption can only lead to one thing: invasion. I love that line, by the way.
What is your suggestion, Master?
These cold coil guys and double down with blackjack and hookers. That is that a Bender quote from Futurama? Because
definitely.
it sounds like a Bender thing. Here, I'm going to type in Randon Rel into Google and see what.
Yeah, I was about
it's
to
like,
ask.
did you mean random real phone numbers? No.
I'm assuming he's an
Okay.
original character, though. Oh.
I'm gonna show you what came up when I typed in Randon Rel.
Oh
Oh
god.
no, I'm scared.
No, it's fine. It's good. It's fine. Or is it? It's really small, but it's a picture of
Yeah.
Brandon Ruth. Yeah. Oh man.
Oh my
Poor
god.
Brandon Routh.
I miss
I always call him Routh.
This also came up like weirdly enough. Hopefully I don't get like stricken from sharing these pictures. Anyways, I'm just gonna share this, and it's a tweet. It's from Twitter. This is Randon Rel. I typed this poor ogre.
the traitor of Alderaan.
That's why he's sad, because he doesn't like being called the traitor of Alderaan. He doesn't like to be reminded.
Well, he's also called
portray anybody.
the despised one.
The
as
despised one. Yeah.
What did he do? Why is he called this? Maybe he's just a silly little guy.
He could be. He could be. He could also be the worst of these Sith.
Imagine
Because the leader is just a little guy. Maybe this guy.
Paul's a little guy. He's a little guy. He just wants a nice sweet treat.
We're gonna find out that he was like someone introduced in like book 3 at the beginning of time.
He's
So,
actually Luxos.
I hope Randon Rel comes back in the Endor chapter specifically when we go back to Endor.
We are the Ewoks. I can't wait for the return of that.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. So Orton Sella, who is of course later becomes Darth Endedu, much to Titus's dismay, points out that they also have the Starforge, right? Agent Paul says even with the Starforge, it would take many years to begin to equal their fleet. And he also points out, which I think is important to remember, the Starforge can't be used without exacting a toll, right? Like it kind of drained what drains like the midi-chlorians, or drains the life energies of people that it uses, right? So of people that use it and the surrounding kind of life forms. So as Baron Remulus Draper points out, he's like, I do not require your permission. You may be king of these Sith primitives, Agent Paul, but you're not my king. Though you like to fashion yourself as such, stay then if you wish. I will go with whoever will join me. We will take the fleet and do what you will not. We will see victory, for that is the way of the true Sith. And we find out that kind of who's pulling the strings behind all this is Sorza's Sin. She had convinced others to go along with Drapa's plan, and she had planted the seed subtly, as men like him only thought themselves clever. So she's the one kind of manipulating things from behind the scenes. And it's no surprise, because I mean, she was the one who was Darth Dreadwar's lover, right? So she's clearly the craftiest of the bunch. Help me, Agent Paul, you're my only hope. Yeah, that would have led to a much different movie.
Instead of Luke, it's just Agent Paul.
And he's a ghost still. He's still a ghost. He just appears before he's like, what do you want? No, never mind.
Help me, Randon Rel. You're my only hope.
Help me, Randon Rel. Randon Rel went on a murderous rampage after Alderaan was destroyed.
I mean, fair enough.
So did the spirit of Ulic Keldroma.
Yeah, well, him too. I'm going to share screen. So we find out that there are certain Jedi exiles, or later Dark Lords, that decide to leave with Remulus Drapa. And we know one of them has to be Carnus Moore, because where he shows up sort of in Legacy, right? And where the Moore talisman shows up. And we find out how he gets that talisman, right? Sorza Sin has 3 great amulets. She gives one to Remulus Drapa. She gives one to Carnus Moore, which becomes his Moore talisman. And she kept the 3rd one for herself. With it, she became a master summoner, able to call forth an array of entities to fight on her behalf. Very cool. We find out that Carnus Moore goes with Drapa in exchange for one of these great amulets. Tulak Horde goes because he just wants to cause chaos and, he loved conquest, and the idea of ruling the Republic was too great a temptation if he thought it could be done. For Boudica, it was pure. Her motives were pure, but in a different way. She loved Sorza's sin. The two had forged a romantic bond, which they kept hidden for fear that others would see it as a power play. And maybe it was for Sorza's sin, but we get the sense here, we're just reading between the lines, that for Boudica, she was in love with Sorza's sin, right?
Yeah.
Sorza's sin. So she's obviously over Darth Dreadwar, and now she's moved on to Boudica.
I love that. We love to see it. Sorza's sin.
That's awesome.
Bisexual.
Luke meets Exar Kun on Yavin 4, uses him to destroy the Death Star. So I have an interesting theory about this. There's this like cult of Exar Kun that's introduced in Star Wars Galaxies. In Star Wars Galaxies, I believe like the main campaign takes place like between episodes 4 and 5. And essentially the cult of Exar Kun, what happens is, this is like has nothing to do with supernatural encounters, but I'm just going to talk about it anyways. The cult of Exar Kun it was basically like a bunch of archaeologists like rooting around in the the Massassi temples, and I guess uncovered Exar Kun's tomb or whatever resting place, and he started to possess these academics and professors and stuff like that, and they created this cult of Exar Kun. So I think that the reason why Exar Kun was silent during episode 4 is because they hadn't woken him up yet from his 4,000-year slumber. Although other people have said that the reason why Exar Kun activated around the time of the Jedi Academy trilogy was because there were a sufficient number of Force users on Yavin 4 for him to manipulate. Which makes sense, because then it explains why he wasn't around or active during Jedi Prince, which I hold as fully canonical C canon. So...
Also, let me say, while we're on the topic of Exar Kun and Yavin 4, let me just say, rip to my boy Gantoris.
Oh yeah, well, really, Gantoris is your boy?
No.
Yeah, no, Gantoris is kind of
he was
terrible.
he was always kind of a punk.
I know, but just rip to the dude. He didn't need to be fried.
I mean, sometimes when you mess with a ghost of like an ancient dark side god,
no.
He makes you into Kentucky Fried Chicken.
That was such a surreal scene too.
Gantoris ain't my boy, but gotta pay respects.
That was such a surreal scene in the Jedi Academy trilogy, because like Luke turns to his students, he's like, "This could happen to you."
Yeah,
but where the dark side?
I was reading that and I got chills when I read that, and then when I went back through and I read iJedi, I was like, man, that was a weird line. That was a weird thing to say to those people.
This is a really cool theory that Darth Sidious brings up. He says maybe Exar Kun left the rebels alone because he saw Sidious as a rival and therefore wanted the rebels to win, and therefore would make sense why he kind of comes around when he does, because at that point it's after Dark Empire and Empire's End, and Sidious has been completely wiped out for good. I like it. I like it a lot.
A lot of these Jedi though, like that we see in those books, we don't see a lot of like later on, like Streen gets like mentioned like a little bit, or like Karana like is like never there ever.
Yeah, although we do find out in Fate of the Jedi that they, in Backlash, I believe that they set up a Jedi temple on Dathomir that was no longer kind of active at around the time that Luke and Ben go there, but they had set up some kind of minor satellite temple there.
And there's actually, this is like kind of off of it, but like in Legacy, when they go to Wayland, and Jariah Sin meets someone named Fiona T.I., and she says she's the daughter of a Jedi, and like I wonder if she's like Karana T's like descendant, Yeah,
it makes sense.
That's what I thought, because I was rereading those recently, and I was like, it's interesting.
We know in Star Wars that if you have the same last name as someone, then you're absolutely related to them, even if like they had it like 5,000 years prior to you. So.
Yeah.
What about who did I just lost it? Never mind. Sorry, that was embarrassing.
And then maybe Randon Rell changes his name to Rick O'Lee.
Do I have one of the Dark Lords of the Sith in my possession
That's
now?
right.
Who else is on?
One of the
He's just
exiles.
he's like monitoring events from a distance.
Before we move, I
Tatooine.
probably make this quick. Can you guess who's on the back? Like who are the other advertised figures?
Is one of them Jar Jar Binks?
That's what I was gonna say.
No.
I was like, Qui-Gon Jinn,
No.
Is it R2D2?
Captain Panaka.
No. No.
What the? Who is
Boss Nass.
Nope.
it? Obi-Wan.
Nope.
Padme.
Nope.
Sebulba. Nice.
No.
Sebulba. Ben Quadraneros.
No.
What the hell? All right, tell me who it is.
It's Watto, Senator Palpatine, Rico Lee, obviously, Darth Sidious, and C-3PO.
Okay, isn't that telling you something? C-3PO knows how to speak the Sith language, so he's confirmed Sith agent. Watto is just like an evil guy, and the rest are Sith lords. What does that tell
That's
you?
true.
Randon Rell is Rico Lee.
I believe.
This is it. This is the theory of the lifetime. Is
I was like, who wants to buy this wave of figures? Like, maybe
Jesse.
get a Darth Sidious, but like,
Yeah.
anyway.
Jesse says funniest change for Wayland in canon is that they changed it to Wayland with an E instead of an A based. And then got to get an alien reference and C-3PO, the left-handed droid. That's why he's like in episode 7. He's like, oh, you might have noticed my hand is different. It's because I now praise Typhogen.
Didn't he become evil in the last movie that I refused to watch because it's demonic?
Wayland.
I just love the idea that like there's this meme.
Typhogen.
There's this meme where Anakin Skywalker's programming like a child Anakin Skywalker's programming C-3PO with the Sith language. Okay, so back to Supernatural Encounters. We were talking about the motivations of various Dark Jedi exiles to go back out into the galaxy. And we find out for Orton Sella, who later becomes Darth Endedu, it was his obsession with the secret of eternal life, which the old Sith seemed to have attained and which Sin had promised to help him find. Probably also because he was going to follow his master, Tulak Hord, who took him on as an apprentice. That leaves Ajunta Paul, Zozan, and the Aunter brothers, Bo Vanda and Random Rel against the idea.
And Randon Rel.
Well, yeah.
Rick Oli.
Half of the Gen Jedi. And so they decide not to venture into the galaxy at large. It says, but we do find out about Randon Rel that for Rel, this was his opportunity to depart in secret, to get far from those whose company he had come to find intolerable. He was never seen again by the exiles.
Wow. They probably hated that he was pointing out all the obvious.
Anakin programmed C-3PO with the Sith language. It's a surprise tool. This is a surprise tool that will help us later. We learn about the Calydon Reckoning on page 815, and that's a crusade that was carried out, I think, by Tulak Hord and his apprentice Stella. Yeah, they went to Urkup on a mission, and you know this is cool because one of my favorite companions in all of SWTOR is a character that we learn his origins now, a shadow killer, Deshad by the name of Kemval.
Yeah.
And he fights. So Orton Sella and Tulak Hord fight Kemval and Veshik Urk. And we're told that they're Urkup's greatest warriors.
Yeah.
And they win. They barely win, it sounds like. They really hurt, but they're victorious. And afterwards, Orton Sella is now christened, maybe that's not the right word, now called Darth Endedu.
Yeah.
So he takes on that portmanteau. Sobriquet.
Yeah. Kemval becomes Tulak Hord's dude, and then Veshik Urk becomes Orton Sella's. And I was just looking on the book earlier, and it says that Veshik was Orton Sella's like servant.
Yeah. Essentially bodyguards. Yeah.
But obviously we didn't know about the whole Darth Endedu thing at the time.
And then we find out that Horde then led his servants and fellow Dark Lords across Chabosh, Aduba 6. I love that because Aduba 3 is like where some of the early Marvel comics take place. And Balmora, where they later boasted of having killed over 1,000 Jedi.
Yes.
And then there's like a little footnote that says like, it's kind of common for warlords to talk about conflate how many Jedi that they might have killed at any given time, right? To make themselves seem,
So basically, they're saying he was full of crap.
Yeah, footnote 206 is par for the course for conquerors who employ hyperbolic boasts and propaganda like this to cow future targets into capitulation, thereby reducing the number of their own forces and resources from being sacrificed in a potentially long and drawn-out conflict. Wars tend to be unpredictable.
Indeed.
We also find out that there's this interesting little part on page 815 that the Sith code has kind of been rewritten by Sorza Sin, paraphrasing what Kuar Den or Satire, the Jedi code. She embedded the new Sith code that would pass down the millennia in various Sith texts and holocrons, right?
There's a cool footnote about that one, too.
Yeah. Do you want to read it for us? Footnote 207?
Yeah. It says, before morphing into the form Sorzasin recorded, the original unwritten Sithari prophecy parodied the Chosen One prophecy. The galaxy shall know the glory of the Sith, for a new Sithari shall come to lead them. He will attain the fullness of power until the Sith are no more, for he is their seal.
Yeah. That's that last part. He will attain the fullness of power until the Sith are no more, for he is their seal.
Yeah.
I mean, really what Supernatural Encounters kind of implies throughout is like the Sith are, in a sense, the chosen people, the immortal gods of the Sith, but also really just tools, really. Like the day, like they're just there to kind of bring about their dark designs, right?
Yeah. So, like, who do you guys think is like the Sithari?
Bane.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I've always thought since I've read like the actual trilogy.
I don't know if that's just bias because Bane is one of my favorite characters after like Luke.
Yeah.
Insane character, but
I think it's Bane.
I want to go with Bane. Well, who are some other options?
It's Vergier, Darth Vergier. I'm kidding.
It's Randon Rell.
I don't think Vergier is a Sith,
Randon Rell.
personally.
Darth
Jedi
Sidious.
Bob.
Jedi Bob, yeah.
Darth Sidious.
I wanted that minifigure so bad.
Darth Crate. And
Darth Kennedy.
Darth Plagueis thought he was a Sithari, but well, we all know how that turned out.
Yeah, the Sithari. I don't know. Maybe someone still yet to come, right? Or it's like the Chosen One, as we've talked about in Supernatural Encounters. There's multiple. They kind of manifest at various times in history when needed, right?
Okay.
And that would mean that Bane is one, Palpatine is or Sidious is another potential one. Darth Kaitis even could be the Sithari, right? Like I know people, Crate in his time. Even someone like Exar Kun, right? As we're gonna later see, right? But yeah.
I like that idea because like the light has its chosen champions, so the darkness has its chosen champions, you know?
I think it makes sense.
Right? And the light's chosen champions face off against the dark ones, whereas, you know, like Cade Skywalker is like a chosen one, I'd say, and Crate could be as well, and they basically have to duke it out.
All right, I'm gonna get real with you.
All right.
So as you recall, remember the fourth precept, we talked about it really, really early on, right? That in Star Wars Tales, right? It has like basically these two warring forces, right? But we learned that the fourth precept itself is like, do not tell any falsehoods, right? That's the fourth precept. It's like a Buddhist concept. So the fourth precept itself might be a lie. But what if this whole like avatar of light fighting avatar of the dark is like really just like a distraction, a sideshow from like what's really going on, right? And that's really the case because there are these immortal gods that are the puppet masters, right? And so I don't know. I haven't really fully thought out this. I just thought about it right now, but I'm thinking like maybe that's just like a distraction, right?
Yeah,
it's like how
like that.
Yeah,
it's just like
that's sort of the conceit of the expanded universe, though, isn't it? You know, we have these stories about Luke or whatever, but then over here, there's the story about Rick Oley, and he's not affected by whatever Luke's doing.
Yeah,
I'm calling it. Rick Oley is the Sithari.
I like that that whole theory because it's like, you know, the mortal beings are warring while these greater forces are at work.
Yeah, they're puppets to distract people from the greater forces at work.
Yeah.
We see that in action in what did we just bring up? Jedi Academy trilogy a little bit, and in I, Jedi as opposed to Jedi Academy trilogy, I should say.
Yeah.
Right.
We see Korn and the others kind of like dealing with this like existential threat in Exar Kun, and then the ending of Jedi Academy trilogy is like is them dealing with Kip or whatever.
Ravath's avatar, the dark avatar. Yeah, I mean, and Ravath being one of those sacred worlds, right?
That's so cool. I love this idea that there is, because I never thought of it like that, that there was multiple Sith chosen ones, like Sith Ari, because it's like, it's always foretold that it's like one person, like one, like, Bane, and that's it. But I like this idea that
the chosen one.
Yeah. That I love this idea that the light has its champions, and then the dark also must have one,
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I hate to bring up this movie, but Snoke says, darkness rises and light to meet it, So it's like, I hate that movie, so I hate, like, it feels like bile coming out.
Which one is that? Is that Last Jedi?
That's gotta be Last Jedi. That's gotta be.
But it's just an interesting concept, if you think about it, it's like all of these potential Sith Ari have all battled the chosen one of that era, with like.
Yeah, I mean,
that's crazy. Sorry, that just kind of. It
also kind of reminds me of like Michael Moorcock's stories with his Eternal Champion and just kind of manifesting himself in various points in history in various worlds and universes just to kind of fight back the tides of chaos, right? So
yeah, wow, that's so cool. Ooh.
So on page 816 of Supernatural Encounters, we get some backstory that should be familiar to people who read Lost Tribe of the Sith and both the book and Spiral by John Jackson Miller. Did this go over your head or?
No. It made sense after when I looked it up, because I thought they were trying to set up like the Lost Tribe, and I was like, that doesn't happen till later. And then I looked up, I was like, oh, it's something else, and I was like, I'm good.
Yeah, and this is largely from John Jackson Miller himself, the father of the Lost Tribe, as it were. So, have you read Lost Tribe of the Sith at all?
Not yet.
I read half of it.
Okay,
I know a lot of their lore from Fate of the Jedi.
I love John Jackson Miller. I freely and openly say that. I think that's like not a hot take. I think a lot of people do. I think his works like Kenobi is it's like a fan favorite, and obviously the KOTOR comics are another fan favorite, and Knight Errant is a bit more of a mixed reception, but we all certainly love it here. I don't know about Al, but I don't think you've read it yet. Yeah, so
for that.
But Lost Tribe of the Sith, when I read it, I was like half and half on those stories. Now, there's a story that links up to his KOTOR comics that I thought was really, really cool, and that kind of got me invested. But kind of looking back on it, I think a bit more favorably about it. I think like it's an interesting kind of sociological study on maybe like colonialism generally. Like, what would happen if a tribe of, or a crash ship of Force users comes across a fairly primitive society, right? Like there was no, like, the issue is like there's not a ton of metal on Kesh, and therefore they can't like build ships or right. So
it's sort of the Jedi exile thing. Jedi, like, they come to the sort of what we were talking about earlier with on Korriban. Instead of finding like a primitive society, they find a well-developed society. It's the reverse with the Lost Tribe.
I just want to bring up this point that Jesse brings up from, I believe it's from Jedi Battle Scars, the Battle Scars novel. I thought that was odd that there was a Kashiri stormtrooper, but I mean, that's just me. I just thought that was an odd choice.
Who are the Kashiri? I don't know who that is.
They're like purple-skinned humanoids.
They're like beautiful.
Yes.
Knights
Errant represent.
Whoa!
Although Battle Scars does also have a what's Quaizux's race called again?
An Amwati.
Amwati in it, like an Amwati antagonist.
Man,
In any
I
event,
thought the Empire didn't like aliens.
Thront.
Front.
So we find out that Drapa is he eventually gains some. He comes across a large flotilla of Jedi warships because they figured out what he's up to, and he eventually tries to flee, but he engages with them over Kesh, and he shot down his ship. He says he rained fire and blood upon Kesh, unleashing force storms and an arsenal of weapons and leviathans against the Jedi. And that's why the Kashiri, you'll find out later on, have these like creation myths of like the light and dark and stuff like that.
Okay,
what's up?
Sorry,
Yeah.
like in Fate of the Jedi, they mentioned these beings called the Destructors.
That's right. This is we're finding out how this myth got started.
That's what I was thinking, because I was like, they mentioned that it's like that the Destructors protected the Kashiri, but like, destroyed everything else, and then they'd start over. And they like had thought originally that it was like the Celestials and like people of Abeloth's the like level, because that Abeloth was the main villain and everything.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh, it's the Destructors, and I was like, this is I love it.
Well, yeah, no, it's really cool. And then what are they? Was it like Destructors and Protectors? Like that's
there was like the Protectors as well, and then there was like the Destructors.
And then there's also a third faction called the Doomed, which we're about to talk about. But before we get there, we find out that like Drapa, he has an arsenal with him, right? And he also has Leviathans, right? Those Sith beasts that we talked about last time and appear in Jedi Academy Leviathan. At least one of them does. But he was opposed by Jedi Masters, we're told, veterans of the Battle of Korbos, and their own powers rivaled that of the greatest Sith. So these are people who know how to fight. But when they follow him down, their ships are destroyed too. So they're stranded just as much as he is. And then we find out like things go from bad to worse for Drapa. Like his Leviathans, because he doesn't have the requisite number of gym badges, stop obeying him. So that was a Pokemon reference. These Leviathans abandon him, and they head to the mountains near the Cecil Spire, the dormant volcano. And he attempts to retrieve them, but finds out, I guess, Sin had deceived him, right? Like they weren't going to listen to him. Okay. And sorry, go ahead.
No.
Oh, okay. Drapa, I think what does he do here? Oh, he altered the great amulet that Source of Sin gave him to augment and increase his strength rather than deplete it, which he did by stealing the life force from his prisoners, and then started to do it from his own men, who kind of revolted against him at that point, right? And then when that happens, he wraps himself in a force barrier, and his adversaries seal him within his very own oubliette. There's two of these oubliettes, right, that we find out about, and one of them, I believe, he created these two oubliettes. He wanted to trap Carnus Moore in one of them, because Carnus Moore is like his rival at this point.
Yeah.
So Carnus Moore has a lot of rivals, but like Tulak Hord's one of them, but Remulus Drapa is another one of his rivals, and it's funny because it's like
nobody likes this guy.
Nobody likes. I don't like Remulus, but it's funny because nobody likes. I don't like him either. Yeah, he has the death sentence in 12 star systems. But the second oubliette appears in Vector, right?
Yeah, and Celeste Morn gets put in it.
That's right.
For like ages.
That was my favorite part of that particular issue. That was really sad.
Now,
KOTOR's Vector segment is the worst I've read so far, even though that's my favorite of the books. But that part was really good when she floats down to the bottom. Yeah.
I'm going to bring this up because I know you and I have talked about this, but you don't like Vector. Right?
Which was?
You. Ow.
Me? I didn't like Vector.
I like Vector. I thought it was ambitious.
I just don't like. I've not finished Vector. I'm still working on it. I'm still getting there. Hold on.
I just remember we had a conversation about this.
No. I love Dark Times Vector is the best of that series. Dark Times, or not Dark Times, Rebellion Vector.
Yeah,
that whole series is kind of a throwaway, but that was pretty good.
Yeah,
and then, but KOTOR, the best of the comics that have Vector in it, has the worst section of Vector.
I thought the
In my
Rebellion Vector arc when Luke comes across Celeste Morn, I didn't love the fact that he came across a Jedi from the ancient Old Republic. I personally didn't love that, but like it would have been better if she like never whipped out her lightsaber and started fighting him, in my opinion. But it's like it almost felt like a zany Marvel adventure to me. Like he comes across like some weird, lady who can control these rat ghouls, and they should have just like, left it at that. So oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm saying, Al, wait till you read the Legacy Vector arc, because it is phenomenal.
Once I finish Legacy, I'm going to go back through. I'm going to read all of Vector in order.
That's what I did. I went back this time and I read all different, like the Vector ones.
Yeah, and I mean, Celeste Morn is amazing. I think she's such a great character. In fact,
Celeste Morn is awesome.
So much so that I'm gonna pull up a picture of Celeste Morn so that we can all marvel. Yeah.
If anybody, Dark Times, great series. Vector was the best part of Dark Times.
That's not a flattering picture ever.
That is exactly why I don't like KOTOR's Vector.
No, you gotta bring up a better picture of
what? This is perfect. This is art. This is beautiful. This
is who I think of when I think of
Celeste art. Is subjective.
Okay, I'll pull up a better picture of her.
Bring up a Legacy one.
Well,
no. Bring up Dark Time. Bring up Dark Time.
I got an even better picture. Okay, hold on.
I just bought the last Legacy volume.
That price you got on it is insane.
I got so lucky.
Yeah, it was really good.
So lucky because I will never do.
I paid $90 for mine.
Crimson Empire 3 art on top. Yeah. Yeah. There's that Crimson Empire 3 art of like Jason, Jane, and Anakin that just haunts my dreams. Here.
One of those kids is gonna become a galactic tyrant. There she is.
Oh, I like that she keeps the yellow lightsaber.
Look at the Mandalorians behind her, but like look at that. That's she's a Jedi Master too, right?
Yeah.
Is she? I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, she is.
That's
Jedi
awesome.
Master. Yeah.
She's badass.
Cool character.
Star Wars Tales Kessel Run art is the best. That's cursed. Okay, I hate that issue. I'm sorry.
What about the 12-ounce mouse?
No,
I'm not one of the 12-ounce mouse-esque Jedi Tales or Jedi Tales.
It's like the Infinity
Star Wars
comics will have malformed faces. I know. Which Star Wars Tales one are you talking about?
Melvin Fett. It looks like it's straight out of 12-ounce mouse, which is the worst.
We did like a reading of Melvin Fett on one of Brennan's streams once, a long time ago. It was really funny. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, we got
no. It's all good. So Drapa traps himself in an oubliette, which he will later bust out of Rita Repulsa style in Lost Tribe of the Sith Spiral, the comic series by John Jackson Miller, which I actually quite liked, and I encourage people to read it. He's like, I'm free, and then there's this group that forms of the Left Behind Force users and they call themselves the Doomed, and they hide from the Kashiri and the eventual Lost Tribe of the Sith when they crash land on Kesh, and they have their own code, which is a altering of the Jedi and Sith code. They say, war is a lie, there is no defeat, there is serenity. Through power, I am enslaved. Through the Force, I am doomed. So, basically what their job is to protect the Kashiri and the oubliette, ensuring that it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. And clearly they do not succeed in that endeavor, because Remulus Drapa does bust out eventually. Okay. Al, any thoughts on this whole bit with Drapa and the Kashiri?
I think it's so I'm not as familiar with most of these Sith Lords.
Sure.
But I thought this was pretty cool. No, go away. Sorry, my cat. She's very upset.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I think the best thing about this whole chapter is getting a better insight into better insight into the various exiles, because we only have like 2 images of them, and we don't even know all of their names. And the ones that we do know,
now we do.
Yeah. Now we do. And now we have personalities. And that's the key, is just having names. That's, that's good. I'd like to have the names, but getting the personalities that's how you create bonds to these characters. That's why I like Ajunta Paul so much, because you have that interaction in KOTOR. And that's why I don't really have much of a connection to Tulak Ord. And I think he's cool.
Yeah.
But I don't he is he's just a name to me.
Yeah.
He has a really cool line well, he doesn't, but Cray has this really cool description of him, but he's just a name. Whereas Ajunta Paul, you interact with him, very good. But so this is another example of that. Strong characterization, things of that nature. Anyway, sorry.
No worries. You just missed it. Al made a convincing case for why Rick O'Lee is the father of shadows.
Oh, shoot.
Kidding. One thing I will say that I didn't mention previously is that I remember talking to one of the editors of Supernatural Encounters, Patrick, months and months and months ago, maybe even over a year ago. And I remember telling him I was so excited to read Supernatural Encounters, and there was one thing really that I wanted out of it, and no, it wasn't heavy metal references. All I wanted to know was, and this number 12 again, right? It's important. Like Luke had 12 initial students in the Jedi Academy, which I forgot to mention earlier, but like that 12 manifests itself throughout literature, both in our world and in Star Wars. But if there was one thing I wanted out of Supernatural Encounters, it was just to know the identities of the other Jedi exiles, which has long since been like something that I've been wildly interested in ever since I read Legacy and read Jedi versus Sith and Evil Never Dies and the Book of the Sith, and learned that there were, because all I had known about was Ajunta Paul, right? He was the one who led them, and then I learned about Remulus Trape, and I learned about Zozan and Source of Sin, great name by the way, and I learned about Carnus Moore, and I'm like, okay, that's 5 of them, but now I want to know about the other 7. And I think Supernatural Encounters delivered in this respect. I was very happy with how the Jedi exile stuff was handled. And I asked Patrick at the time, I was like, tell me, like, is this addressed? And he wouldn't tell me anything. I was like, all right, then keep your secrets. But, he had like this kind of like twinkle in his eye. And I was like, man, I really hope that they address this. And they did.
So we covered that the Order of the Doomed is formed on Kesh while I was away, right?
We did. Yeah.
Okay.
Of the remaining Force users basically banded together. And their job was to protect, but they were like secret. They're a secretive society.
Yeah.
They didn't reveal themselves to Kashiri or the Lost Tribe when the Lost Tribe crash lands there. Then their job is to basically protect the oubliette and make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands and the Draper gets out.
Now, did we cover the students of the academy that Swords of Sin?
We're about to talk about that right now. So
okay.
you can talk about it. I'm just going to frame. So to frame the scene that starts on page 817, we find out that there are 2 academies founded by 2 of the Sith that also left the Stygian Caldera. One is Source of Sin's Academy on Sigil, and the other is Brudica's Academy on Malachor 3. All right, go for it.
All right. So there's some names here.
Yeah, why don't you read it? Like, so the Academy ranks filled up, and then read from there.
So the Academy ranks filled up. Amongst the notable names that came out of these were Vias Antinous, Beryl Slathborn, Ergast, Garatak, Nir, Farshal, Ronan, Baka Sadao, Vacuus Tyrans, Vasago, who apprenticed to Carnus Mur, and Aloysius Calig, who requested to serve the great Tulak Ord. So
I think it's Aloysius.
No, it's always been Aloysius to me. It's always how I said it. But all of these names, except for Baka Sadao and
Sussy Baka Sudao.
I literally said the same thing, and I was like Sussy Baka. And like,
yeah.
But these are all like SWTOR characters. Like you can look them up. There's like not much lore to them.
They're all SWTOR characters.
Yeah, except for like Ronan, Baka Sadao, and I think Fasago, and maybe another one. But there's something here.
Sure, go for it.
Ronan.
Like the like the samurai
from
thing?
Star Wars
Ah.
Visions.
Yeah,
Interesting.
And he is a Sith. The Ronin's a Sith Lord.
yeah, and he was in an era where there was more than one Sith.
No
Um,
way. I never
I
caught
don't
that.
know. I don't know, but I saw it and I was
Oh,
like,
Is his
man.
name Ronin?
Yeah,
That's
well,
just
pretty
what he
much what they
goes
call him.
yeah, he's
Oh,
just
fair
he
enough.
goes and in the
He
I
even
know
gets
there's
his
a
own
whole
book.
novel. There's a
Oh,
whole
that's
novel.
true.
He's just known. He's just Ronin.
I honestly want to. Okay, so I did not like Star Wars Ronin. I did not like that
I didn't read the
book at
book.
all.
Didn't read it.
I thought it was a very hard read, but I almost want to like reread it now because I feel like, can I fit this into the supernatural encounters? And I feel like I can.
Look at Jesse's comment. Look at
Here,
that.
wait, I'm just gonna throw up a picture of Ronin while we.
There he is.
So
To be
what I will
fair,
say is, what I will
looks
say
cool.
is that although I didn't like the Ronin book at all,
Yeah.
I do like Star Wars Visions, and
Yeah.
I'm not like a huge fan of new canon content, but Visions is not tethered to any timeline, and they're just stories, and I like
Yeah.
them.
It's completely non-canonical.
Some of the RPG groups and Jedi Council forums do have the Ronin's time period in the 100-Year Darkness. I mean, it could work.
It
So it
works.
does fit. We don't have his
It
name yet.
works.
I thought Ronin was from post Return of the Jedi. I mean, maybe, but I'm just saying it could.
It could go
be
either way.
Yeah, it could go either way. So that's really cool. And then I
Is there
wanted
any
to.
evidence
Oh, sorry,
in
go ahead.
the book or in the short, like where it takes when it takes place? Does
It's a
anyone
very-
anyone know?
It looks very ancient.
Right.
You know, it looks
Feudal.
very archaic, very old, very feudal.
Yeah.
So my guess is that it's later on, but I mean, again, that's kind of the art style to make it look feudal. But like, even the droids look old. You know, the lightsabers look old.
That's crazy.
So
That's-
like,
That is really cool.
I
didn't
saw
know that.
Ronin
I like
and
it.
I was like, huh.
First Order. Well, yeah. I mean, we can explain that away. Like in SWOTOR, they have like clone trooper armor and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
um,
So who knows? I think it's cool. Exactly. Jesse, splendid AP. Maybe he launched some stormtroopers back in time somewhere.
It's true. That's true.
He did it
Yeah.
once. He can do it again.
So the other interesting thing is mentioned in Joe's footnotes. Yeah, splendid AP, right? Or splendid app. Post Return of the Jedi impression came from the Stormtrooper armor and the AT-AT and Visions. Yeah, fair enough.
Who knows? I saw Ronin and I was like, huh. It's like, I wonder if.
I mean, I would say, Logan, that it doesn't have to be specifically like what occurred in Visions occurred during the 12-Year Darkness. Like Visions is again like just like an idea, but like maybe
Yeah.
that character,
yeah, exactly. Maybe that character was there, but
yeah,
again,
extant during that time. Yeah,
yeah, and you know, Visions is that's just stories. It's just non-canonical things. But this character might have existed somewhere else.
well,
It's-
I like it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's just like
That's neat.
there's a Ben Skywalker Tales issue, and Ben Skywalker, you know, exists in
Yeah.
something else as well as this. So
see, I've said it like a million times. I'm just gonna say it a million more. But like without this book club stream, I never would have picked up on that on my own. I never would have, and that it just like it enriches my enjoyment of the book.
it's so cool.
The one character in the Ronin comic could be Mace after Revenge of the Sith, because his flashback is a weird samurai version of the Duel versus Palpatine. Yeah, I remember that was like that one shot, that Ronin one shot that came out.
And then
So
Logan says, "What if Ronin is from a line of Ronins?"
that's very interesting as well.
That's cool.
Ooh, that's neat. I like that.
Yeah.
And this Bacchus now.
So
Ronin would just be a title.
there's an end note about Baka Sadao.
Oh.
Joe explains how Naga Sadao claims that he has that one of his forebears is amongst the exiles
just
or
read that.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
So basically it's like, well, this allows him to make that claim because Baka Sadao was
That his father?
trained by Source of Sin, or like at least in that academy. Could be his father. I mean, I don't think so, because Naga Sadao, like we first hear about him, spoilers, I'm jumping ahead, but 5,155 BBY. So I feel like he still
Could be just an
like
ancestor.
thousands of years later. Yeah, an ancestor.
And again, as we know in Star Wars, you have the same last name for thousands and thousands of years. So
Yeah.
Somehow.
So Source of Sin So we find out Tarek Morage is one of her apprentices, and he falls in love with Sorza's Sin. She's less enamored, but she for sure. That's why she has those yellow eyes. I'm pretty sure that's her. But she begins to have visions of the Jedi coming to kill her. So she departs Sigil for Malachor III and for Brutica. But even there, the Jedi track her, informed as they were by a student who'd overheard her making arrangements. After a savage skirmish, they imprison her and, fool them twice. Shame on them, right? They decide to kill her this time, and they execute her as a threat to the Republic. Ooh. Especially when they discover her laboratory on Sigil, probably like a laboratory of horrors, right?
Mm.
Jesse says it's weird that they'd call Ahsoka a Ronin Ahsoka, but Dave is still riffing on Princess Mononoke. Yeah, I didn't know that because I've never watched that show and probably never will. But that's, I guess, like she kind of is. I don't know. She's yeah.
And I don't know. Dave just loves his Japanese motifs.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, that's Star Wars.
Yeah.
What is it? Hidden Fortress.
Dave is always Dave loves that stuff. He puts it in everything.
Yeah. So we find out Tarek Morage becomes obsessed with continuing Sorza Sin's work. And he's obviously distraught by her death. And so he continues his time studying Maxichlorians. Yeah.
Maxichlorians, get it?
Yeah, exactly. Summoning rituals and secrets of the Black Orchid, which again manifests in Red Harvest and later Dark Troopers. We find out that he creates a plague that could cloud the mind of Jedi and turn them into mindless thralls. And a Jedi healer named Katrine O'Maro develops a means of breaking the mental domination and manages to nullify this threat. Other Jedi, even though she dies, her sacrifice had not been in vain because other Jedi picked up where she left off, stripping away the source of power, fueling Morage, who was then caught and also executed. So the Jedi are cleaning house.
Yeah, and y'all know the Maxichlorians, that has to do with Darth Tenebris and his stuff. So
yeah, I mean, I think all are kind of up in the air. Logan says the Ronin could be an order, culture, or philosophy, and I think all of them are kind of potential possibilities, right?
Mm.
But I like the idea that there's like always one, there is no more, no less. A Sith Ronin.
One.
Meanwhile, back in the Sith Empire, they replenish their depleted Massassi forces with slave armies. It says supplied by the vicious organization known as Crucible, which was founded by Lord Ealdis, who's later going to become more of a crucial figure in terms of the Sith Empire's power base. And he's called a Dark Jedi that went to underground after the 100-year darkness, and so he wasn't part of the 12 exiles. But could potentially have been like a candidate for one before Joe had fleshed out who the 12 were. And then we find out Kemval, because the Republic starts to come down on Tulak horde, for lack of a better word. He places Kemval in a stasis field within the Korribani tomb built for Dread War, but used for Empress Volshe.
This is interesting because it mentions a stasis chamber on Korriban, and maybe it's the same one Crate used.
It could be
a stasis chamber on Korriban.
Right.
Maybe like when he went there, he discovered it.
Yeah, it was certainly the one that my Sith sorceress used when she unlocks Kemval and makes him her companion.
Yeah.
So
who knows?
They're really funny here. I'm gonna look up Sith sorcerer companion.
There's a really cool image of Tulak Horde and Kemval together.
Sorry, Sith Inquisitor companions. Blah blah blah. But there's a companion. No, it's not Talos Drellic. Wait, maybe it's not. Interesting.
But yeah, I just thought that was cool because it's like, there's a stasis chamber located on Korriban. So I was like, well, Darth Crate was there, for a while, and he was vibing in the stasis chamber. So, I mean, maybe he was like, oh, shoot, I'm going to use that.
So the Sith Inquisitor's master is Darth Zash in SWTOR, and like spoilers, like you can do something with Darth Zash and Kemval that's like hilarious in my opinion, but I'm not going to say what. Korribani Spa. Yeah.
It reminds me of the Tamara Morrison meme where he's like, the Polynesian spa. You know?
Can we get the meme where he goes into the obelisk chamber and says, Korribani door slams, wakes up 1,000 years later.
So Karnas Mor. So some of these exiles want to kind of go back now to the Sith Empire, right? As Tulak hordes, like we've maybe made a mistake here. Maybe I may have gone too far in a few places. And Karnas Mor wouldn't hear of it. He says, "The rest of you may go back if that's your desire, but I will not abandon all that I have accomplished." He has his great amulet, which becomes the Mor talisman. Mm-hmm. He develops the Codex of Karnas Mor to aid in his posterity and understanding its power. And he basically, like Drapa did, I think he reprograms it to become Lord of the Rakghouls, and was enjoying his success along his apprentice Tyrans of Sago, who had ferreted out Drapa's loyalists who intended to trap Mor on Terrace, because he becomes the ruler of Terrace, we're told, right? Mm-hmm. Karnas Mor.
That's awesome.
But eventually Tulak Horde gets into a scuffle with him. And, strikes him down.
Rip.
But Mor becomes more powerful than you could possibly imagine, right? So here, I'm going to see if I can find that blue-skinned...
Yeah, there's a picture, and Karnas Mor is just dead, like on the stairs, and then there's like a blue hand, like kind of right in the back.
Right.
My cat is sitting right on my foot, and I will get bit if I try to kick her off.
I found it. It's a little hard to see, but I think we'll be able to make do.
It's in Legacy, I'm pretty sure.
It works. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not going to search the issue. But look, there's that blue hand.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go.
And
that's Tulak Horde. It works.
Long have we waited to see him in the flesh.
Long have I awaited.
And that's Karnas Mor dead on the stairs.
That's right.
Rip Bozo.
So Horde struck out at Mor, red with rage, and he strikes him again and again until his body fell to pieces in the ground. The maddened spirit of Karnas Mor entered his talisman, having earlier encoded it with potent incantations to ensure his survival. Blue Lack Horde.
Yeah. Well, if he's red with anger, wouldn't he be purple?
Okay.
Turns into a Kashiri.
Listen here, you little shit.
Also,
you're
probably
right.
not how blood works, but it's all right.
He's not. What's that line from like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier? He's out of line, but he's not wrong.
Yeah, he's out of line, but he's right.
Yeah. The talisman would remain on Terrace for a long time, and ever the Rakghoul plague would erupt from it, but it could not affect one who was force sensitive. Mm-hmm. For which reason Mor's spirit would struggle with any force sensitive wielder who dared to wield it. If that one was strong in the light, Mor might very well have been destroyed. Yet if the wielder was weak or corrupt, Mor would take their body for his own. So does that mean that Celeste Morn was weak and or corrupt?
No, because she fought against his presence within.
She was able to get in the box.
That's right. Not what's in the box. None would find it until Jedi Master Celeste Morn came to retrieve it. Against her, Mor's dark spirit strived. But a young Padawan by the name of Zane Carrick found a way to save Celeste and locked both her and Karnas in the very oubliette Drapa had intended to trap Mor in long ago. And that's how we get Vector.
When she wakes up in dark times and she's like, Zane failed me. Oh my God. It was so painful.
Hello, Brennan. Welcome. Why don't you throw up your...
Brennan, look what I got.
Go.
I got a little something for you.
Rick Oli action figure.
Let's go.
Oh no, what have I done? So relatable. Yeah. Thank you, Brennan, for those well wishes.
Thanks, Anya, pal.
And then we get this really interesting bit on page 819 about Darth Visago and Bast Castle and Vijun. Is it Vijun or is it Vijun?
I've always said Vijun.
Vijun. Yeah, okay.
I've said
no way. Yeah, that's right.
And Kyle Katarn and everybody in Jedi Academy says Vijun. That's how they say it. So I'm
gonna buy.
So
I'm gonna buy the Yoda.
Darth Visago. Sorry, Al. I keep cutting you off, man. What's going on?
Oh no, I was about to say I'm gonna buy the Darth Yoda. Yeah, the Yoda Dark Rendezvous audiobook. Find out
Yes.
according to whoever reads that.
Well,
This is the Academy.
Vajune's in there. Yeah. Rick O'Lee had joined Superlit. Yeah, for real. Yes, he has. He actually sponsors it along with
Brandon Rell.
Yeah, Brandon Rell.
Brandon Rell.
Teen heartthrob Brandon Rell.
Our favorite Superman, Brandon Rao.
Yeah. So we find out that Darth Vasago leads to his homeworld of Vajun, where he establishes a lineage of Sith Lords that will one day become the Macrosa Order of Sith Knights. That's very cool. And the three sisters, Chiron, Jirel, and High Lady Brejwalt III, who obsessed over forbidden tomes, and he eventually secured the arcane Black Book and a lost copy of the dangerous De Vermis Mysterious. And I think in an earlier stream I had said, like Stephen King and his Salem's Lot, but then I think it might have been Harry pointed out De Vermis Mysterious actually originates with Lovecraft, which I should have known. But it means like the mystery of the worm, right? It's a grimoire.
But we have a picture though, like of this location of Bast Castle, and there's interior, like you can go inside of it in Jedi Academy, and it's at the time it's Darth Vader's castle, because it says in one of the footnotes that it is gifted to Vader later on, and he kind of chills out in there. But you actually go in there.
Bast Castle.
Yeah, and you can. There's a really cool cutscene where Kyle's ship, the Raven's Claw, is like flying in. And it's got like the dun, 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 like music as it flies by. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Isn't that also on the cover of one of the Jedi?
Yeah, there it is.
Jedi Knights books? Yeah.
Yeah, and they do go there in Junior Jedi Knights as well.
Is Tyrants of Saga the same Tyrants as the one from SWTOR? Potentially, yeah. Vajun. Okay, thank you, Scott Johnson, for that pronunciation check. Appreciated. And good to see you, man. Let's be honest, is Marcel running the show now, or is it Rick O'Lee episode 1 action figure? It's Rick O'Lee, obviously.
I did pay a pretty penny for
that's
him,
cool. So
how much did you pay for Rick O'Lee?
$5.
Oh.
Well, $5 well spent. In Battlefront 3 Elite Squadrons, you can enter Bast Castle. Yeah, you can.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
I know my way around Bast Castle like the back of my hand. You know, I've been in there so many times. My goodness.
It's like that meme where it's like the old lady. It's like, I've been in Bast Castle so many times. He's like, sure you have, Grandma.
Yeah, I have. I've been in its trash compactor.
Was there a Dianega in that trash compactor?
No, it was like a really weird one. It was a weird trash compactor, and then Kyle's like, Kyle, jump out of the middle, you know, like, because you'll get crushed.
What's Vader's castle on Mustafar called? Is it just like Vader's castle?
It's just like Fortress Vader or something.
Yeah. Bast Castle is so much cooler,
isn't it? I mean, I like the symbolic.
It has a name
on Mustafar, but like, I don't know. This one looks much cooler.
So this is something, Maxine, you've unlocked a long-held argument. You've unleashed the trap.
Maxine, wait.
I've held.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Al. My apologies.
Oh no, I for a long
Fortress
time
Vader.
I have thought the idea that Darth Vader would go back to Mustafar is like the worst idea.
Okay.
Like why would he?
All right, yeah, I can actually see that.
So he is fueled by pain, sure, but it's more like anger and rage. And I guess so. Okay, now you've unlocked this argument, which I have not actually gone through in my head, so I'm disproving it as I'm saying.
Well, I can see it because he won't go back to Tatooine because his mother died there, and you know all of his tragedy has started there. And I guess you know, like Mustafar was the site of his greatest defeat, you know, and now he's going to go back there and relive it.
But then, does that mean that he would? But that doesn't. That perhaps he would get fuel from that.
Yeah,
you would get fuel from hate. Oh man. I hated that for so long, and actually makes a lot of sense. Wow.
Vader
live being proved wrong.
Tatooine. That's funny.
Yeah, that would be fun.
What was I going to say about Bast Castle? Right, I remember. Have any of you read Lightsider?
Yeah.
If not.
Okay. Do you not remember that Executor Cedrus is in Bast Castle,
Yeah.
like staring up at that statue of Vader.
Yeah.
Isn't that also in Dark Empire or Dark Empire 2? It's in one of those. You see the statue come down in one of those. I don't remember if it's Dark Empire or Dark Empire 2.
In Jedi Academy, you actually see the statue in the game on the floor in pieces. And then
they
Jaden
talk about that
Korra-
explicitly
Yeah.
in Junior.
And then Jaden Core, like when you go up to the statue, and then like, well, in my case, I made Jaden Core a girl, and she's just like, guess someone didn't like Vader much, like, so
Right.
yeah.
I want to try and pull up Lightsider. I think it's on Joe's website. Let me see if I can do it real quick. Keep talking about something while I'm doing this.
So Junior Jedi Knights is awesome. And Disney, you should put it back in print, and you should also put it back in print Young Jedi Knights, because that was also a pain to get. I still have not acquired all of the Junior Jedi Knights books. I've not acquired a lot of things. I need a lot of things. Disney, put them back in print, please. But the Vader's Castle on most of our thing, I have hated that idea for so long, and having now said these words aloud, I have convinced myself otherwise, which is very embarrassing. But
no, that's cool.
I didn't like about that though is they made Mustafar like it never was like a hell world. It was like a paradisic world, and like it was just like war turned it to this wasteland of lava. And I was like,
okay. I'm gonna read something from Lightsider just because I want to, because it's just so good. It's right at the end of Lightsider.
Lightsider, so good.
Yeah. After Gwyer was gone, Cedrus walked restlessly around his office a few times and then went to the meditation hall. He stood before the great statue honoring Darth Vader and looked up at the masked visage. He wished the statue would communicate some shred of Vader's dark wisdom to him, now when he needed it most. But of course, there was nothing. There were only Cedrus QL's ruminations. To commune with darkness, to feel its black fire swell within me until I am utterly imbued with the Force, until my consciousness is immersed absolutely in that infinity. That is the path to greatness. The Emperor will return. I can feel it, and he will not be pleased with me. Dark Jedi indeed. Cedrus QL suddenly felt very weak. Chaos bordering on madness seemed to threaten just beyond the perimeter of his mind. He wanted to scream, but of course he did not. Instead, he pulled himself together and went back to his office to work on the attack coordinates for Operation Shadowhand. The statue of Vader, as usual, was silent. And that's how Lightsider ends. I love that. I'm sorry.
It's so good.
It's my favorite thing that Tom Veach wrote, and I love everything that Tom Veach wrote. I'm
Lightsider's excellent.
a Tom Veach super fan, and I just
same.
Yeah, my God, it was so impactful to read that.
And
sorry, we got some comments here. I like it more than Vajun Castle because it's connected to Corvax's fortress. Yeah, okay, fair enough. I mean,
it's funny. It's like Cedrus wants him to like convey some dark wisdoms, and I'm like, Vader wasn't really the type to kind of dole out wisdom, you know? Like,
yeah,
he was just kind of like, you know, you suck. Like, that's probably what he would have said to Cedrus. Like,
he didn't really have any wisdom.
This is interesting. Padme is probably, as Jesse says, Padme is probably trapped in between the Force and the living world because of Vader trying to get her back in Immortal, doing the same ritual Corvax did to her husband with the Bright Star. Interesting. And then Scott says that Lightsider is perfect interlude into DE2. Yes, I totally agree. And somewhat like, you know, DE2 is not as beloved as Dark Empire 1. I know a lot of people don't like Dark Empire 1 as well. I am a huge fan of Dark Empire 1, and so I think that Lightsider kind of legitimizes Dark Empire 2 in a way, like further legitimizes it.
I'm a defender of Dark Empire 2. I don't like it nearly as much as I like I love the first one. The first one's right up there with Tales of the Jedi, and KOTOR is my favorite Star Wars comics.
Yeah.
2, I like, you need, there's like, it does feel like there's something missing because Cam Solusar just shows up and you're like, oh, hello, who are you?
Yeah,
then Dark Empire 3, Empire's End rather, is like, well, that's it. It just ends.
Well, Empire's End, they want it to be they want it to be 6 issues, right? But he had to wrap it up in 2.
The actual game of Lightsider, like as it's described, is fascinating. I think it's such a cool concept, and like I just loved that scene of Cam and Luke playing it. It's so cool. It's
Yeah,
like,
it almost reminds me of. Have you ever seen Sandman, the TV show based on Neil Gaiman's comics? So it
no.
almost
I
reminds me
need
of
to
like when
read it.
Morpheus is facing off against Lucifer, and they're like basically trying to mind one up one another with like conjurations and scenarios and that kind of thing. So that's like kind of like what Lightsider is. But
Yeah.
it's really cool. Max, can you read us that paragraph on chapter? I want to say, sorry, it's page 819, chapter 76. Still, Count Tyrannus Visago went on to become a cruel old nobleman. That one.
Sure. Count Tyrannus Visago went on
Yeah.
to become a cruel old nobleman, having learned from his former master the rare arts of the dark side healing and the foul alchemy of Rakul transformation. He twisted and shaped his own horrors into ravenous energy vampires whose feculent bites turned victims into mindless ghouls. By a similar means did he preserve his own life for centuries. While peasants toiled in the acid-soaked fields below, he erected the Alcazar of Chateau Bast, from which House Vazago ruled Vajun for millennia.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And
And-
then, sorry,
no, go for it.
we visit Vajun in Dark Rendezvous. We learn
Yes,
of
you go to Dark Rendezvous.
Chateau Malraux as well.
That's right.
Cool. I love that book.
Solus and Fidelis. I know, me too. It's such a great book. Actually,
I'm
recently,
the audiobook and reading this and listening to it.
I finally finished Stevie's interview with Sean Stewart, and it's just like, I just love everything Sean Stewart has to say about anything. He's such a cool guy. And
shout out to Stevie as well.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. Shout out to Stevie. He's a massively cool guy as well, and a good friend.
He's gonna watch these in the future, and he's gonna be like, "Hey, like,
yeah,
you know?"
Stevie just does such a great job of just putting people at ease and making them allow them to be themselves and giving them that space. And I just love hearing what Sean Stewart has to say about his work and his life, and even like stuff like AI, and so it's just really interesting. So plug for that interview if you haven't watched it. It's like 3 hours though, so it's a bit of
I love this interview with
task.
Joe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So then on page 820 we get the end of some of the exiles, the end of Zozan and the Onter brothers. Ajunta Paul, we find out, is lonely and regretful, right? We always kind of knew, I mean, at least in Supernatural Encounters, the way he's portrayed, and it's consistent with his like Force Ghost, is that he's kind of like this baleful spirit, right? It seems like he's just miserable and probably suffers from some kind of depression. But he basically sees that the pointless ruin of the dark side and looked upon his comrades as foolish, greedy, prideful, ambitious, ill-tempered children, unable to cooperate with anyone. And so he's kind of reaching his end here. But before that happens, 4 Sith Lords go to the prison world of Belsavis to retrieve the Wraith Box. Now here we have another kind of like SWOTOR tie-in. A legendary item of Rakatan construction that stories claimed held captured wraiths. So the 4 Sith Lords, I believe, are Bovanda, Zozan, and the 2 Onter brothers, Dachira and Moat.
Yep.
Moat, it says Dachira believed they could free trapped entities that would bestow upon them untold power. Moat believed it was a great weapon that could be used against their adversaries. Bovanda believed it would bring their empire riches beyond count. And Zozan, of course, the skeptic, held reservations. For she recalled the histories, the destroyer of worlds being imprisoned there. So she obviously knows, and the Eshka. So she obviously knows some of her Belsavis lore. Like she read those SWOTOR codexes before they went to this planet. So she knows all about it. And also her trust in the others had diminished over the years. Did she ever really trust them? I got the sense that no. But... So they find the Wraith Box. But it only brought them death and madness. They unlocked the Ark of the Covenant here. The Onter brothers were driven to rage and slew one another. Zozan vanished in purple flames to where no Sith knew. And only Bovanda returned to tell the tale. Was she Darth Simi Bovanda? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
She only returned to tell tales, later chronicled by Darth Skaish, and she resumed work on her holocron and alchemical experiments. Whatever thoughts or anxiety she kept to herself. And then also on this page, we get Ajunta Paul's fate. Do you want to read that quote? It says, and so the one who recreated the Sith Empire It starts there. Either of you, Max or
Here, give me
Al,
just a second here.
on page 820.
820 where? Hold on.
Is it?
It's probably
is
embedded
it-
in a paragraph.
Yeah, I'm looking.
If Paul would not, is it the paragraph? Paul would not miss his former companions and would be glad. Is it that paragraph?
After it says magnifying weakness of character and quelling strength.
Yeah, down the page and on the sort of like closer to the bottom of the page.
So it's in there.
And so the one who created the
Okay.
Sith Empire. Yeah,
All
you
right.
found it. Yeah.
I see it. Yep. Sorry. And so the one who recreated the Sith Empire, who is seen as the manifestation of Typhogem and the first Dark Lord of the Sith, died, attempting to overcome the darkness within.
Rip.
Paul's body was taken to Korriban and placed in a massive onyx tomb in what would become the Valley of the Dark Lords. His rueful spirit would linger there until the arrival of Jedi Knight Revan, who helped restore Paul to the light.
Right.
One
of my favorite parts of that game. Very nice. I love it.
I think look, we were talking about this earlier. We made the meme like a Junta Paul's just like I may have gone too far in a few places, you know, like
Yeah.
like the George
He is George.
Yeah.
A George to Paul.
I was about to say that. I was about to say a George to I may have gone too far in a few places. Oh
So,
my god.
hello. Good to see you, man. Thanks for
What's
joining us,
up?
Comfort Eagle.
Hey.
So then Tulak Horde comes back at the turn of the tide. And
Yeah.
he kind of takes over where Jinta Paul left off, right? And he becomes the new reigning Dark Lord of the Sith. And he appoints Bo Vanda as Darth Simi and Brutica as Darth Judikar. And he would later be regarded as Darth... Do it. Say it.
Carnage. Darth Carnage.
Yeah. I think that's a cool name. I know. I really like that. It's spelled with a K. It's K. Yeah, K with a Carnage.
It is spelled with a K, but I do like Maximum Carnage for the record, so I'm fine with it. I enjoy it.
So Chaos Man brings up an interesting point, which I've often found kind of interesting myself and a little demented. Sidious models his empire after vitiates, like the title of Moth, Sith ship designs, and recreating the sacking of the Jedi Temple by Darth Malgus. And it's like, did no one realize that Sidious is modeling his empire after the Sith Empire? I just, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, this might not be the most apt comparison, but it's like if someone were to like, you know, start an empire like 200 years from now and be like, yeah, we're going to incorporate Nazi symbols into our, or like titles into our empire. It's like, what do you mean? Like they were like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, why would you, doesn't that tip people off that you're up to no good? Anyways, that's just kind of where my mind goes with it, but not to get like super political, but yeah, it's just like, did no one realize like, hey, like, you know, maybe the fact of the matter is like through the Dark Ages and stuff, that most mentions of this Sith Empire were kind of wiped out, such that people didn't remember. Beyond like maybe like the most esoteric historians, that like there was the title of Moff or the same symbol was used or that kind of thing. So if anyone has any interesting theories in the chat, or maybe he just reframed, like people are like, yeah, you know, he might be modeling after like the Sith Empire, but like, you know, I have peace and security now. So
I think that's essentially what it was. They were like, hey, as long as the galaxy is safe, you know?
Yeah.
Well,
why to recreate the glories of the past and make them his own? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, to pull from my own background here, my grandfather fled from Italy in the well, technically in the 40s, but he actually left in the 50s. He was chased into the mountains, but in Italy in the 40s, it was Mussolini trying to like throw back to Roman Italy.
Right.
So you see that a lot in real history.
Yeah.
And like essentially it's just like always these kind of like designs of the past always repeats themselves, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and even as far ahead as like as Legacy, they're still using like Star Destroyers and that, you know, the wedge shape and everything. So it's just like
I mean, the wedge shape is like one of those like polyhedron designs that it's.
Yeah.
I'm sure it like props up again over and over in history.
Yeah.
Scott Johnson says Darth Judicar sounds like it was one of those Darth Who choices that didn't win the Darth Kaitis contest. Yeah, I've always thought Kaitis is kind of a weird name personally, but
cool.
What does it mean?
I
Like,
don't
does
know.
it have a meaning?
It does have a meaning. Yeah, I remember I looked it up. And then Jesse says, speaking of Palpatine, he either reframed it or killed the ones you spoke about in accidents. Yeah, I mean, like that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe they like met an untimely end, like certain people in Russia who speak out against Vladimir Putin, right? They just happen to accidentally fall out of windows and stuff.
I like this fact that they kind of just like people accepted it because it was like, oh, we have peace in the galaxy now, so who cares? You know?
And then Harry says like so many empires think that the new Romans often using the same imagery architecture. I mean, I think the real world reason for this is that they wanted to create in SWTOR some easily recognizable symbols that people could that could resonate with people, that people could latch onto, right? But I think it works in a historical context because Harry's right. Like, I mean, like even like again to bring them up, like the Nazis use like the eagle standard and stuff like that. That's clearly from like the Roman Empire, and Mussolini tried to recreate a lot of Roman glory by using those same symbols, right? In the Italian fascist empire. Kaitis meant slaughter, according to Comfort Eagle. Yeah, it meant slaughter. Okay.
Especially because of Kashyyyk.
So Logan says Imp Star Destroyer wedge shape started by Tenebris. Interesting.
Rugus no.
Explain a starship designer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So we find out that so Darth Carnage, or Tulak Horde as he's now known as Darth Carnage, and Darth Endedu create 5 powerful artifacts that they together would form an Itsu Ashmud ritual and give them greater vitality and allow them to conquer more worlds in the Sith Empire, right? So he expands the realms of the Sith. But he eventually meets his end. Darth Carnage, the Lord of Hate, came himself to finish off his former general. This would be Aloysius Calig.
Yeah, Aloysius Calig. But they get into like a 15-year like rivalry, these two.
That's right. And then when he does so, Darth Endedu's Deshade Shadow Killer, that being the other guy, right?
Veshik.
Yeah, Veshik, appears from the shadows to stab his master's former mentor in the back and consume the dying Sith Lord's essence to prevent his spirit from transferring. And so there you go. I mean, like like a Roman emperor, he got stabbed in the back and taken out. Endedu's furious. But he was forced to forge ahead in secret. He followed the trail of the dark path to its source, learning about the Deathless Shadow Council and the lost techniques of Ukubokum found in the Treyas Academy.
We should also mention that Tulak Horde had killed Calig as well.
Yes, he did. Rashly, we're told. He rashly killed Aloysius Calig. So then Darth Endedu goes to the great library of Vicious Tuan in Arcania, which we've talked about last stream, I believe.
Yeah.
And he's looking for a way to, again, he wants to unlock the secrets of immortal life. Logan says, so we're now permitted to proceed. We were basically drawing it out for you, Logan, but I'm glad because we're almost there. Case in point, the Nazi salute came from the Roman salute. Okay. And itself came from fanciful 18th, 19th century depictions of Romans in paintings. Yeah, like you look at the Oath of the Horatii by Jacques-Louis David, and they're kind of doing like a bit of a salute, which I will throw up here. So because this isn't just about supernatural encounters in Star Wars, we're also learning about
history,
modern art and history.
Everything. We love learning in this.
And this is like in like my college like literature classes, like this is what we talk about, like when we talk about like myths and fables and creation myths and all this, and we like talk about like the historical stuff behind it and everything. So
so David I think did this in the late 1700s 18th century, right? So this like that salute that they're doing, the Romans, they're swearing an oath. This is like an early Republican history here that he's depicting, but they're swearing an oath, and it looks like it looks very similar to the Nazi salute that they're giving, right? So but like actually I was talking to one of the artists of Supernatural Encounters, which we're hopefully going to interview soon on Brennan's channel. His name is Guillaume Ducos. And we were talking about Jacques-Louis David and how much we love him. And he said that one of David's paintings was his computer background. I was like, that's so cool. Because it used to be my computer background years and years and years ago. Sorry, Comfort Eagle says, Kaius comes from Latin word Kades. Finally got it. And sorry, Al, you were going to say something.
Oh, my favorite one of my favorite TV shows,
Good to see you,
HBO's
Harry.
Rome. Have a good one, Harry.
Hi.
It uses the ahistorical Roman salute. Which was a big talking point when the show first came out.
Was it that like cross arm? I'm not going to do it because I'm going to get like canceled if I do it. But I thought it was the cross arm, like both arms out kind of thing.
It was exactly what you just showed on screen, and the discourse at the time, from what I understand, from like historians or whatever, is like, well, that you're trying to be historically authentic, but this just never happened, and this like you probably shouldn't do that. However, the creator of the show was like, it's cool, so we're gonna do it. So that was
Yuuzhan Vong have like a salute, and it's basically the same thing as like the Wakandans in Marvel, like the Wakanda Forever salute. The Yuuzhan Vong do the same thing.
What are you trying to tell me? I'm just kidding.
No, I'm just saying, like,
well, because there is a Wakandan, wasn't there? Like Killmonger, like starts like mutilating himself every time he gets like a.
Shoot!
Hey,
wow!
Killmonger confirmed Yuuzhan Vong.
He's wearing an Oogleth masker.
Yeah, and Scott says Americans had the Bellamy salute. So here, if you guys were on the educational children, this is what Comfort Eagle says. If you guys were on the educational children show grind when I was a kid, then I would have grown up to be the smartest man alive. Get on it, guys. Well, yeah, if only. And Chaos Man says it's so cool to have so much context about Tulak Horde, Kalig, and finding out Horde's relationship with Andedu. It makes me more passionate about Sith Inquisitor's story, my SWTOR main. Yeah, I mean, me too. I want to go back and play the Sith Inquisitor. I'm not going to because I have 3 other classes to finish, but I do want to finish Sith Inquisitor because it's just like it's adds so much context to it now. And I think all the exile stuff, I know that there might have been some skepticism from some of our commenters early in the stream, but I think it works really well. This is like the thing that I have the least issue with in this book. I think the exile stuff delivered where I wanted it to. How often do you think about the Roman Empire? Well, it's like, when men enter their 30s, they either get really, really into like the Roman Empire, World War II, or smoking meats, right? Those are the only options.
And I got all 3.
Victor Zaz.
Victor Zaz is Yuuzhan Vong. That's right.
That's true.
Right. From DC Comics fame, Batman specifically.
My least favorite Batman villain.
Really? Hydra does the double Nazi salute.
They do, don't they? Well, they have the closed fists.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Doesn't the first order in those movies have a salute that they do?
They also have a Nazi salute.
But it's like a one-handed, like it's basically like Hydra one, just one-handed.
Yes.
So we find out that Brutica thinks Andedu's planning to carry out the detestable Rakfrum ritual that Dreadwar had intended. So he wants to. She thinks he wants to like draw everybody's life essence to give himself immortal life, which actually I don't think is the case, right? Instead, he rapidly changing gears. Instead, he casts Dwamutsiksa, which kept his former companions busy while he fled the Sith Empire. Titus is definitely not still watching, but if he was, Titus, we came back to it. He fled to go to his private keep on Preketh, leaving his throne in the Great Temple's Hall of the Undying forever empty. So he flees to Preketh, where he continues to carry out his experiments in immortality. But his dreams of apotheosis were dashed. And I don't think he was planning on drawing on sucking all their life essences. I think he had something else in mind to try and get immortal life. It says he was convinced that the others were jealous of his knowledge and intent on harming him, reasoning that the real motive Carnage had for slaying Moore was the envy of Kalig's growing powers. If he could kill one former apprentice, he would have no compunction against killing another. So yeah, I mean, obviously at this point, Darth Andedu's turned into a bit of a paranoid schizophrenic. Well, maybe not schizophrenic, but he's paranoid at the very least.
Paranoid.
Very much.
So he flees. It says to throw his pursuers off his scent, he hides the remaining artifacts of Tulak Horde on different worlds. It sounds like it would make I think it actually is a SWTOR like side quest or something like that. But he basically creates a SWTOR side quest for everybody to follow later on. And then this part was a little strange to me. So Darth Judikar.
This is I found this very interesting.
So underneath the Valley of the Dark Lords, there are, what was it, like liches essentially living there?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you guys.
They conspired in darkness with the Lich Kings of the Nihil Retreat by means of the Oracle Stones.
They're vibing there.
Is it? But
no, wait, hold on.
In due course, they grew accustomed to the. Oh, okay, no, sorry. They become so. She basically, like a cult leader, Darth Judikar, leads and 11 others descended into the depths beneath the Valley of the Dark Lords, and they become the liches.
Yeah, and then they communicate with the other ones that are out in the Nile Retreat.
But that's crazy. Now there's like they're in underneath the Valley of the Dark Lords. There's like these. She leads her cultists underground, and
when you get there as Revan in KOTOR, there are liches. There are liches right beneath your feet, and you can't fight them. That's
so it says
the plan.
They communicate by means of the Oracle Stones, those primordial spheres of precognition and clairvoyance that the ancient ones had gifted their forebears, enabling them to remain apprised of events in the galaxy as they orchestrated movement in the political sphere, from corrupting Exar Kun, counseling the reborn Palpatine, and perpetually preparing for the impending day of release when all the galaxy would be cast in nocturnal shroud. So they're still under there right now.
Yeah, they're
still there.
Still fight them. You could still fight them.
And I think it's what was it? Shoot, I lost it. No, I think that's fascinating. And I actually I did this yesterday. So in season 6 of the Clone Wars, when Yoda goes to Korriban and he's encountered with these Sith spirits, I was trying to see if they had counted them, and that there's 13 in total, but there's 17 in the show of these spirits. So it's not those ones, but I thought it would be. And you know, but it's not. But it's so cool that they are there. They are waiting, and they're and these Oracle Stones remind me of the Lost Seeing Stones in Lord of the Rings. You know, like
the
Saruman. I know I have seen it. You know,
Palantirs.
The Palantirs. Yeah, that's what because they're like. Can you just imagine these 13 lich lords or dark spirits just under the Valley of the Dark Lords, just like, you know, the shot of Saruman like holding his hand above the Palantir. They're just doing that and like manipulating the events of the galaxy, like along with the beings in the Nile Retreat. So I love this. This is fascinating that we're getting this kind of build up for these this ultimate evil that's still there. It's still waiting throughout all of the history of Star Wars that we know. It's insane.
That was going to be that Darth Maul video game set 100 some years after the movies. It was going to be about fighting them. Yeah, that would have been that's what was denied to me.
With
Me
and
Darth Talon fighting the liches.
Jesse shared a picture that I'm just going to throw up here. The lich.
Oh my!
Willow, yeah.
Ooh. But we have a picture of them in the book, like it looks like a ring wraith from Lord of the Rings.
We have a ton of comments here that I missed as I was like musing. It's also tragic that the swastika was once a positive symbol in Hinduism, and yeah, of course, yeah. In just 20 years, it was ruined forever, as well as Chaplin's mustache, as it turns out. Prakith is one of my favorite planets, Scott Johnson says. Yeah, it's a really cool planet. I would love to spend some time there. It's there. The Inquisitorius was in the EU. Foga Brill's headquarters. I could be wrong, but I think the Korriban invasion flashpoint in SWTOR isn't one of the boss fights underground. It might be. and this is the picture to provide the context that I threw up. There's a Lich and Willow 2022 as part of the Gales, which remain minions of the Withered Crone and the Eternal One, the Worm. I wonder if they look like him. Probably. I mean, once you've seen one Lich, you've kind of seen them all, like Voldemort. So, sorry, he who must not be named as a Lich, right?
Mm.
Technically, right? He keeps his little Horcruxes or like phylacteries. Imagine a Shadow of Mordor type game where you hunt Sith ghosts on Korriban, or even like Terentatex. I would hunt them.
Nah.
Just open world, Shadows of Mordor-esque on Korriban.
Hello, Ken. Thanks for joining us.
And speaking of Korriban.
Speaking of Korriban, here is and thank my my benefactor for sending these to me. They're a little small, but I'm going to try my best to but this is from Empire's End. Yes, it does have some relevance, but you see that there are these like dead liches underground that Sidious in his weakened form consults with. Like, he's the one with the cane over here, right? And he's like, look at this next thing that I'm going to throw up here. Yeah, wait, it all comes back. It all makes sense. I love how Supernatural Encounters makes Empire's End even more palatable, right? Like, look, there's an Oracle Stone.
Wow. Okay.
An Empire's End.
That is cool.
I'm like Akbar on that cover of the most recent issue of Return of the Jedi Anniversary, whatever. Well, he's pointing. He's
He's just pointing. Yeah, the Wojak.
Was the Wojak.
Yeah. There was, I think not Jesse, I think Logan had asked earlier why Brutica was called the Majestrix of Lehon, and the reason why is because as we're going to learn, I believe at the beginning of chapter 77, but I'm just going to say it now. But Naga Sadao wears this thing called the Turag crystal, descended to him from his forebears who'd been gifted it from Brutica, who had claimed it from the throne room of the late Overpreetor on Lehon. So obviously, like, there's like the Lehon kind of like link there, right? But Brutica is now like living underground as some like Lich Queen or something like that.
Yeah.
Where does she come from? Where does Brutica come from? Every time I say it, I want to say Botanica, because that's a Transformers character.
Scott says the mummified Sith are never really dead. Sorry, Al, I cut you off again. Again.
That's all right.
Please.
Wait.
That was a fun issue. It was a fun issue. Darcy says the liches beneath the Valley of Sith Lords is to explain why the Dark Lords and Tales of the Jedi Dark Lords of the Sith and Empire's End aren't ghosts and are sitting on thrones instead of being in tombs. Yeah.
Well, we know now that they are the Lich Lords.
Logan says, did she loot Lehon or subjugate it? And I would argue that she looted it, because the Rakatans probably at this point are primitives, right?
Yeah.
That temple you go in at the end is pretty empty.
Because of our boy. Now. Mungle.
We're going to finish chapter 76 and we're going to dive right into chapter 77. But to basically finish it off, yes, so we already talked about how there are these dark Lich people underneath the Valley of the Dark Lords and these crypts, these forgotten crypts. They're still there to this day. But then we find out, excuse me, at the bottom of page 822, Lord Ealdus, the throne of the living Sith then passed to the rule of a single Dark Lord of the Sith, Lord Ealdus of the Crucible, for whom the underworld and the glories to come held little interest when compared to the glories of this world. Of the more than 120 planets of Stygian Caldera, Sith sovereignty would last nearly 2 more millennia before collapsing at the end of the Great Hyperspace War.
Damn.
And that brings us to the end of chapter 76. I will talk very briefly about an issue that I have with Supernatural Encounters that I felt like wasn't sufficiently explained. And then I want to hear Ken's thoughts on chapter 76 and 77, like your broad thoughts, but really just to get into it, and we can talk about it a bit. But
how does my mic sound, by the way? It's my new mic or headset I'm using. Does it sound good?
I think it sounds crisp. Yeah. Sounds
okay,
good.
cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
I can't get my mic, or not my mic, I can't get my cam to work. Trying
That's okay.
Down just
an hour.
Touch, because it is a little bit loud.
But we can test it out. Yeah, it's a bit loud, but we can test it out next time.
Okay, cool.
So my issue is that Ajunta, like early on in chapter 76, when we have the exiles, they talk about the Starforge. If we have access to the Starforge, it exacts a terrible price, but it's like this Starforge just kind of just lies in wait there, and I can't believe that nobody exploits it over the 2,000 years until well, even longer than that, until we get to like Revan's time, right? Like just nobody touches it really, as far as we know. Maybe they do, maybe they use it. I don't know, but it's like you had like 2,000 years to build like the most massive army you could think of. It's like, why? It just feels like a plot hole that the Starforge is just literally and figuratively left there hanging. And there's just, and I felt like I felt like it could have been dealt with kind of like very simply, maybe just putting it like a line in there or something along the lines of like, maybe the location of the Starforge died with the Junta Paul, or with the last of the 12 exiles or something like that. But presumably Darth Brutica would know where it was too. So I just don't know. I don't know. I'm curious to hear other people's thoughts on that.
This was my problem going all the way back to when we first learned there were 3 Starforges. Now, I was corrected. There were 3 Starforges before. And I guess if there's not like if you don't want to add something when you don't have to, so I understand that. I would have rather that they destroyed it, or something happened to it, or it ran out of it something. I don't know exactly what, but I guess my problem comes from SWTOR, obviously, because that's where they, or I think it's from SWTOR where they introduced 3 Starforges or whatever. But
yeah,
it feels like a loose end. It feels like a loose end. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm kind of mixed on it.
We talked about this a little bit, between us. I think that after the essentially after everything fell apart for the exiles, the Starforge was essentially left in the hands of those who were remaining. And Brutica, being the magistrix of Lehan, brought it there, and then maybe intended to use it. But then obviously the whole thing happened where
she goes underground. Yeah.
Yeah. Where they become lich lords, and then they realize that they don't need to go back. And obviously they probably can't now that they're these shadow beings instead of physical things. And then it was just left there on Lahan, and obviously Lahan was like a hidden place, and then Revan rediscovers it later on. So that's what I was thinking, is that Brutica moved it there. They might have intended to use it again, and then essentially nothing happened, and they became the Lich Lords, and then the Starforge is just left hanging there on until Revan.
Jesse says someone forgot the keys to the Starforge. That's
funny.
What?
I would accept that.
Yeah. There's a ton of comments here that I haven't even gone through. Logan says, imagine if the 12 found the primitive Rakata instead of the Sith. Well, I feel like they wouldn't have gotten as far if that was the case.
Yeah.
They truly were primitives, the Rakata, in every sense of the word, right? They had like devolved as a species at that point. And then Sidious says, the out-of-universe reason is that Veach wanted the Dark Lords to be liches on thrones, while Kevin J. Anderson wanted to be ghosts in tombs. I think liches works better and is more in line with Lucas's vision, because he did not like the idea of Darksiders living on after death. I mean, like lich is like they're technically like undead, but they're still somewhat alive. And then Chaos Man says, I've always viewed the difference between light and dark side spirits. Light spirits are guardian angels descending from heaven, while dark spirits are haunted ghosts unable to leave the tombs. Yeah, I've always seen it sort of like the dark spirits are kind of tied to an item of some sort. I don't know if that's actually true, but like
I would prefer that.
Except for like Darth Mar. Like Darth Mar, he's just he's chilling. Like he dies, and then like he just goes on and like vibes with Satil Shan, like as a spirit.
That's the thing. It's like I almost feel like maybe Darth Mar, I wouldn't say like a light side redemption, but like there's some interesting there's something interesting going on there that I wish they would have explained more. I actually quite like Darth Mar as a character. That was interesting. His armor is pretty cool.
Yeah, he's got
and then Jesse says, I still wish the fake leaks of Rebels 2 were real, because we would have had a random Rakatan King mentoring Ezra. Would have been cooler than Ahsoka. Yeah, that would have been wild. People would be like, what's this? And then you would have like Star Wars Theory, or like, Star Wars Theory, who does like lore videos, like Eckhart's Ladder or something, being like, who are the Rakata?
Yeah.
Like whenever like Abeloth and Ahsoka or whatever, it's like, who is Abeloth?
No.
They missed their payments
like
in the Starforge.
like, whoa. Oh yeah, that would be that. You know what? You know what? If they came out and they're like, "Oh, the other two Starforges got taken by the IRS when the Rakana went under," I'd be like, "Okay,
I could accept
fair
that.
enough. I'd rather have
Understandable.
that."
Yeah.
Understandable. Have a nice day.
But he looked dope though.
So Ken, tell us, what did you think of chapters 76 and 77?
In broad strokes, I thought they were both very good, but there's one thing that I want to talk about with all three of you, if you want to have input, is the Sith having like love as like a concept, because I don't associate that with a group of people who are like hate each other and kill and engage in all sorts of hedonistic. So like for Sith, like Sorza Sin and Boudica that like love each other, that's very strange to me and foreign.
All right,
I know we have like Jason, like he loves his daughter, he loves Tenel Cobb, but like that was all before he became Kitus. That just like goes with the him becoming a Sith. That just goes along with it.
Darth Malgus.
Darth Malgus, yeah,
that's true.
That's why I don't like that whole plot piece in Deceived.
But Kitus still loved his daughter.
Well, that was all like before he. I mean, he still loved her as a Sith, but like he had like a dissociative personality. Like Kitus and Jason are two different people.
But
he loved Alana and Tenel Cobb as Jason, not Kitus.
Ken, just so I get the right.
What?
Just for clarification, Ken, because I don't want to argue with something that's not. I don't want to like push back on something that's not actually true. When you say the Sith don't feel love. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit? I'm a little bit confused.
Sure. The Sith don't feel love as in like romance, like romantic, like I love. Like, being a Sith, you're inherently selfish, so like you wouldn't be able to like love somebody as like a Jedi could. It's more of like a hedonistic thing where it's for pleasure.
Okay, so like hold on, my tongue tied.
No, you're good. You're good.
Because as a fundamental part of being the Sith,
yeah,
the part of you that loves is extinguished.
It has to be like pushed down, or at the very least pushed down if it can't be extinguished.
Okay, I agree with that. I think that's fair.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
The Sith only care about like love is for it because they only care about like base pleasure, like having like the act of like sex as for pleasure and not love. That's something that I can see the Sith doing.
Yeah,
like,
well, I mean,
having sex for love.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, what I will say is this though, is like, I think that Boudica might have loved Sorza Sin, but I got the sense that Sorza Sin
didn't love her back.
Yeah, didn't love anyone really.
Well, yeah.
This isn't stated in the text, but maybe it's more of it. Maybe even with Boudica, it's less of a love and more of an infatuation or a possessiveness.
Yeah.
The like yeah.
Love is
that's fair. That's a fair criticism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love is.
I guess it just depends. Yeah.
That's right. All right, chapter 77.
Whoa, hold on. I will say, Sith like love and these strong emotions fuel them. And Kitus loved his daughter. Everything he did for her. And it's like they are allowed to love, and like Darth Krayt loved his father. He held him in like the highest regard, even used his lightsaber. So it's like these things like are like they only fuel them, I would say. That's how I see it.
That.
Right.
I just think like part of love is being selfless, and the Sith aren't capable of being selfless.
Well, yeah, but they are
like to love someone else, you have to let go of part of yourself.
Yeah,
Sith just can't do that.
I mean, it's probably not a good idea to.
It's very like I'd say the Sith version of love is more dysfunctional than like normal.
Yeah.
Think of it this way: it's like Darth Plagueis says this in the book. Says, "Remember why the Sith are more powerful than the Jedi, Sidious, because we are not afraid to feel. We embrace the spectrum of emotions, from the heights of transcendent joy to the depths of hatred and despair. Fearless, we welcome whatever paths the dark side sets us on, and whatever destiny it lays out for us." So they use these emotions to fuel their own dark side.
So we got some comments here. Kyle says Sith can love, in his opinion, and Logan says Sith can love Sidious loves democracy
Of
instead of
course.
himself.
That's
Hello.
that's
Comes
fair.
in with the democracy. I love democracy.
I think there's a distinction that can be made here that is sort of getting in the way.
Real quick,
Oh, sure.
if I may. I know it sounds like I think that Sith can't love. They can, but their idea of love is just very super dysfunctional.
I think that's fair.
Anyways,
I think from just sort of like rolling this around in my head for a little bit. I think the Sith can love, but as the dark side corrupts, so does their view of love corrupt. So it becomes possessive. It becomes
exactly. That's what I'm
infatuated.
saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm-
So
exactly my
they
point.
can't
They're-
they can't love, but they can love. If that makes
they
any
can't
sense.
love, but they can. Yeah,
Sure.
mhm.
Okay.
Excessive
Okay. All right.
love.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting digression.
So
Or love
you could
drives
say
them
the
to do
Sith
extreme things.
are. You could say the Sith are simps. A simp lord.
Simple word, yeah.
Scott Johnson has an excellent comment. Yeah.
Ulick still loves his
Ulick
brother
still
Kay.
loves it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
And then like I
Selfish love.
like the like love also drives Sith to do bad things, whereas like
Yeah.
I'm
Matt
Oh my
Wilkins
God.
says
That proves he's not a
Darksiders can't
Darksider,
love.
Matt.
Yeah,
Alex
that
can love
proves a lot,
Palpatine.
Matt.
but like
Yeah. Or Brennan can love his fake brother, right, Matt?
yeah,
Wow.
it's fake
His
brother.
imaginary brother only exists in his head.
But like
know
love
what I
pushes
got to love here.
Darksiders. Love pushes Darksiders to do bad things, like with Anakin, and
Mhm.
with Padme, and with Jason.
Yep.
It was doing everything in the galaxy to save his daughter. So
Mhm.
All right, we're gonna go on to chapter 77 now.
let's go.
Chapter
Alright.
77,
do it.
Known as Nagasadao meets the materialist magician. So we find out that the successors of the exiles were dangerous and evil, but they were not true Sith, for the immortal gods were but old stories to them to be exploited as necessary. They've kind of lost their way. We find out that for nearly 2,000 years, Darth Dreadwar has been hungering in the howling winds of Nelribma 13, just basically chilling there, vibing, one might say. But he's trapped, he's chained in this dim,
planet is
dust-laden
one big
world,
vibe.
right?
He's vibing.
In this vault, so then we find out. Sorry, he's
See encounter.
and the mewling corpses of his army, most now only skeletons and armors, crawled up and down the 8,000 steps of his dread citadel in maddening patrol until he had them stored in carbonite. This sounds like a Dark Souls level to me. It's just
It
like
does.
Yeah.
Wow.
this-
Dark Souls 2 specifically the ice area.
Matt Wilkins says Brennan is a lonely child. Leave him alone, like he is at his house. Yeah, because he has no brother.
Wow.
Star Wars sussy encounters.
Baka
Sussy Baka Sadao encounters. Yeah. So then there is a reference to the Rakatan star map here. We find that he has in the event that he did not succeed in mastering his goal of immortality, the macabre secrets of his book, Gias Kintikon, had been interred not with Dreadwar, but in his tomb on Korriban. It says vassals had long prepared for him in the Valley of the Dark Lords in this vault built around a Rakatan star map left by Darth Soa on Korriban. So it was Darth Soa who left the star map. Does that mean that he left all the star maps? I don't know if that's what that's saying.
I'd
We'd have to
imagine.
go back and look. That's really interesting though, because in the game, that's presented as it's Naga Sadao's tomb, even though he would have died on Yavin 4, so that doesn't really make any sense. You could say, well, they built.
It was like
Anyway,
a fake tomb.
It
Yeah,
was a clone.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
Darth Vader had a tomb on Korriban too, didn't he?
Yeah.
he did. Yeah.
So
But in that game, that's presented as Naga Sadao's. Learning what we do later in this chapter, that's a really cool detail. That's really interesting. So he comes back and he says, well, since you ain't using it, this will be mine. That's
Yeah.
I love that. That's really cool. That's really in character too.
And here we have Logan says he asked the question. So did he storm in Carbonite now while he was stuck there? He came back later. I would say now.
was
Like,
wondering
he just
that
got
too.
bored of them, and I think I don't know that he's like trapped in any specific place. I think he's trapped on that planet.
yeah.
But I don't think he's like trapped in I think he can still move around. But maybe I don't know. Maybe we'll find out that he did it later. Hello, good to see you, Brady.
All right.
So then we find out we enter Nagasado on page 824 in 5155 BBY. A young half-blood of the Kasai caste completing his final trial as an acolyte, pierced the defenses surrounding the secret chamber and plundered this crypt, that being the one on Korriban. Ignoring the suits of rotting armor dotting the periphery. Also, I appreciate the British Canadian spelling of armor. And the two ancient lightsabers, the effigy of the Witch Queen grasped like wands. Young Naga Sadao took from its grasp Dreadwar's vile grimoire. So he takes this book. He was looking for a ritual specifically to enhance his powers. Yeah, Nagger Shadow.
Nagger Shadow.
Yeah. He was looking for a ritual to enhance his powers, and then this is where we're told about the Turag crystal thing that he might have gotten from Brutica. And then Sadao meets Darth Dreadwar. He basically follows the clues all the way to what Nil Rebma 13. Does he go there? I think he does.
I believe so.
Or maybe not. No,
he doesn't. He just kind of
visits him, kind of like appears to him or speaks to him.
Yeah, he like summons his dark spirit out of nowhere.
Right. He says, "Increase my power," Sadao implored. Spectral laughter saturated the air like fog. "Why would I do that?" the spirit hissed, looking down at him, pitiably hopeful face of the acolyte kneeling before him. So it says, there's an empty hood of an ancient wraith. I'm going to pull up what that would look like. Here's the picture right here. This is what he's seeing.
Oh, man.
It's the Nazgul Witch King of... No, I'm just kidding. Angmar.
Like
Darth Dreadwar, yeah. I mean, like he's, like your black owled dark figures.
Dark Souls NPC.
Yeah, fairly popular archetype.
Yep. What's cool is like he looks like this. He looks all intimidating, whatever. But he still talks just as much as he used to. He still loves talking.
Yeah,
he yaps, bro.
He's just constantly talking.
Oh my god.
Bro's a word machine. Yapping.
Yeah, so he basically says, like, Dreadwar says, like, "Why would I give you power?" And Naga Sadao says, "Because our empire has dwindled, our leaders lack vision, and our people tear each other like wild Shiraks." Maybe, Ken, I'll have you read this next little bit, because you haven't been able to read yet today. It's like, I will teach you.
Okay. Oh, here we go. I will teach you, for I am Darth Dreadwar, Dark Lord of the Sith, and you somehow freed me from my numinous prison. Realizing he'd been wildly incorrect in his supposition and falling back on the obedience training all Korribani were taught as younglings, Sadao prostrated himself before him. The Dark Lord approved and gazed up. Strange are the skies. Aeons must have passed.
He says, Sadao says, "Forgive my ignorance, venerable master." Not knowing Dreadwar's identity, for all history of the Dark Lord had been expunged from the records, but figuring he might yet coax secrets from the ancient spirit. "But I don't know from whence you came. Are you a ghost sent from the afterlife to restore our glory?" Sadao had known of such things since he was a boy. "I have heard spectral whispers in the Valley of Golg telling me I was destined for greatness." He gestured confidently. "And the elder priests speak of the shades of fallen Dark Lords, for which reason the thaumaturges obey the old traditions. Leave the artifacts of the Lord's favoring, and bury the Lord's servants with them to assist them in the next world. I have heard too of Sith who came close to death and spoke of the terrifying black winds and fires of chaos yawning before them."
I am no ghost, but consciousness embedded force, Dreadwar rasped, attempting to correct Sadao's naive inquiries. There is no life after death, child. Only nothingness awaits. Like much of your race, you've been raised on superstitious myths and legends. Only the material is real. Sadao was surprised to hear this, coming from what was clearly a specter, and must have been shown on his face, but the ghost continued. The science of the dark side cannot easily be explained to one so steeped in primitivism. I was tempted, for I see you have some power. The afterlife is that which you make for yourself using advanced science that is feared by the weak and superstitious. By solving the problem of death and the true nature of the force, which you oft call magic, I've uploaded my consciousness to the informational substrate of the cosmos itself, transcending the useless, lumbering golem of ethereal flesh.
I persist as a conscious force unbound, a being of pyramidal information, my qualia unchanged. And I shall endure so long as this universe endures, perhaps even further still, as there is an infinitude of others through which identical consciousness might be sustained.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you there. That's interesting. What he says there is super interesting, and I want to focus on that for a bit. He's basically saying that he uploads his consciousness to the informational substrate of the cosmos itself. So he's almost like reducing the force to like a hard drive of some kind, or like some, like, you know what I mean? Like he's like basically like, yeah, I uploaded my consciousness to the cloud. This cloud exists
like on a USB drive.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The force is a cloud, right? Is the cloud. Like Logan says, Darth Yap War. No kidding. Hitler was like a hardcore Reddit atheist who believed everything can be explained by science and dismissing everything that is slightly supernatural despite his own condition. That's why he's the materialist magician, right? He has a materialist explanation for everything, right? He's so weird. Like he's an atheist Sith Lord. It's so weird to see. I love it. I love it.
And I thought
literally my favorite.
Sheik probably more human than I'd prefer. Yeah.
I always thought of Plagueis as the atheist Sith Lord, you know?
Yeah, well, there you go. Dread War is the OG. Information didn't the Nil didn't the Nil Aferis AI do this also? I mean, almost when I thought of that, I thought of Hidden Pitham. Uploading his informational substrate into the Force such that droids become part of the Force or whatever, have sentience, right? I don't know. What do you think of that, Max? Hidden Pitham, didn't he kind of do the same thing, uploading his consciousness into the? Anyways,
it just kind of spread out amongst all droids, I would say. So I'd say it's possible, but I mean, I feel like using the word upload is more of a like material term for it, you know? More like transcending your consciousness into the Force instead. Uploading, because uploading makes it sound like you downloaded it on a flash drive and stuck it into the universe and just unloaded it, you know?
I may be stretching, but like Darth Dreadbore almost feels like a cyberpunkish Sith Lord, but the way he talks, like uploading.
Really interesting.
I can see that.
He's a yapper.
So he kind of like he's kind of glommed onto Sadao. When he goes back to his ship and they leave, they departed Car Delva for Ziost, capital of the Sith. As the hooded spirit begins his lessons. Despite my great learning of the sciences, I too had once been fooled. He would not sit, but just stood behind him in the dominant position. That at least is a typical of a Dark Lord, thought Sadao. In the depths of Malachor V, this is Dread War speaking, I was contacted by one of those that are called the immortal gods of the Sith. At the time, I was awed and accepted it at face value, believing this deity or some grim servant had led me to that place. Later, I was attacked by those that could only be described as beings of shadow. The reported ministers and messengers of the outer gods. They would have us believe that they are supernatural entities, gods and demons, but they are no more than the advanced intelligences who learn through the evolution of intellect to transcend their mortal coils and project their will upon the world. So again, he's saying basically they've uploaded themselves to the cloud. They can project their will upon the world. It is by these means that they terrify and deceive the lesser races. In this, they are as guilty as the celestial myth inventors, whose so-called maker is probably some old goat from Lesser Tana. Lesser Tana, of course, being Endor, right? So. But he's basically reduced all of these supernatural entities and encounters into something that is, it's like Darth Dread War is like the anti-supernatural encounters in a sense. Like he's saying no, these are all completely natural encounters that you're having.
They're natural encounters.
Yeah. They can all be explained through science and nature, and I guess that's sort of part of his academic background and tradition, right?
It's just funny because like he's encountered an immortal god of the Sith, perhaps the immortal god of the Sith. And then he is also himself a spirit being, and yet still refuses to believe, oh yeah, no, this is nothing. And I remember his old conversations with his students on Ossus just being like, oh, you know, the Force is just something that someone invented that we haven't figured out yet, just like hyperspace, you know? So...
Well, that's the whole thing with tyrants, is they delude themselves before they delude others.
Yeah,
he's basically deluding himself.
Yeah, and now here he is yapping to Naga Sadao, being like, "Oh yeah, no, it's just a bunch of bunch of mumbo jumbo,
And
and
he's just posturing. He's just posturing to scare Naga. He doesn't
and he's
really
just
care.
I don't know. He's a yapper. He's Darth
Yeah.
Yapper, as Logan
Darth-
said.
He woke up and he immediately started talking.
I know he
First started
literally
cooking.
and like didn't shut up like the entire time. Like
It's like my cat. He's like my cat over there screaming at me, even though I just got up and fed you. Sorry. I'm
and I
kidding.
love how Naga Sadow's just going along with this, and he's just like, yeah,
Uh-huh,
like he's just nodding and smiling, like this guy's insane.
Just smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.
Like he's just like going along with it, like this guy's nuts, like in his head, like what the hell?
The guy's crazy.
Yeah, I love that he's like so like he's just like all right, whatever. I guess so.
He's just like,
Go
Average
along with it,
Skyrim
yeah.
NPC conversation.
And then it's also just weird, or it's just not like weird, but like I always thought of as Plagueis as the atheist Sith because he's always like, I've reduced the Force to science, and I've reduced midichlorians to a science, and then like he believed like his encounters with Sith spirits was just nonsense, and that it was something that happened all in his head, and all of these myths, like he talks about the Bedlam spirits in the book. He talks about like the Celestials and the myth of them receding back into the Force, but like his beliefs are like nothing. Like maybe Plagueis is more of like the agnostic Sith,
Yeah.
whereas Dreadwar is definitely the atheist Sith.
Well, it's that I think that's so. It's not even just
Love
that.
this.
It's
Can we
Oh, yeah,
also
that's-
can we just shift Ken downward?
No.
Okay,
Yes. There you
thank
go.
you.
One
He
could
doesn't have
imagine,
a camera on him.
yeah, that's true. No, fair
I
enough.
wish I did.
I can stop sharing screen too.
Can't get to word though.
Trying to get SE discredited, not to express any truths to make contain, but because he's genuinely offensive to his worldview. Yeah, I mean, I see that. It's just funny because he's like a ghost. He's a wraith.
It's ironic because he's just this shadow being. He's like,
Yeah.
nah, it's nonsense. Like,
Al, what were you gonna say?
Well, I think Plagueis is sort of like a real atheist in that he has sort of like rationalizations for things.
Yeah.
Whereas Darth Dreadwar is kind of like a movie atheist where he's like no.
yeah.
He doesn't have any reason. He's just nope. He's
No.
like he's kind of like Jetfire in. I already made this comparison. Never mind. I was about to say he's like Jetfire in the latter issues of IDW, but even then, Jetfire's not that.
Of latter issues of IDW what, Al?
Transformers. Excuse
Okay,
me.
perfect. Okay.
I'm terribly sorry.
We've met our quota. I was
There
scared.
it
'cause-
is.
Technically, we had two because I did bring
Yeah.
up Botanica, but that kind of got
Yeah.
lost in the shuffle.
So when they get to Ziost, Dreadwar anoints Sadow with the archaic title of Darth. And that, I think, explains this anachronism where in some sources he's referred to as Darth Naga Sadow.
Yeah.
It didn't have much meaning to the Sith of his world, but he accepted it graciously. He exhibits considerable patience listening to Dreadwar drone on in his philosophy. It's like, as a Korribani Sith, he'd grown up in a culture of pragmatism. But Sadow remained unconvinced by his lofty speeches. And
I know I just met the quota, but very Starscream of you, Naga Sadow.
yeah, because they had to put up with like
Very-
Megatron's dronings, right? And
Yeah, he's like, you're an idiot, Starscream. And Starscream's like, I cannot wait to stab you in the back.
yeah,
I love how it says like Naga Sadow's like inner thoughts. He's like, of all the Dark Lords I could have raised, and he got the yapper.
that's right.
Of course.
But finally, his patience pays off because Dreadwar begins to teaching him the legend. He teaches him of the legendary and secretive Shadow Council, but also like couldn't help but be dismissive of them. And he talks about. He says the highest acolytes. This part was interesting. Who serve the mythical outer gods would have us submit to bringing about ultimate entropy, what they call the way of the dark. That's why I got confused earlier. I said the dark path. But we ought not to be slaves to the dark, but its masters. The key, my apprentice, is to walk both paths, but never succumb fully to either. To seek out nothing but power for its own sake is the way of the fool, as that only invites others to lust after and steal it. But to seek out nirvana for the sake of nihilism is also the way of the fool. but for what good is nothingness? And he brings up a good point. It's like if your ultimate goal is just nothingness, like what good is that? Like I will no longer be alive, or whatever he is at this point. He's not necessarily alive, but he won't be around. And I've always found it interesting from a narrative perspective, because we don't often see villains whose like goal is ultimate annihilation of everything, like just complete nihilism. Like they just want like nothing to exist anymore, including themselves, right? Pretty dark, but at the same time, like, yeah, this is like the father of shadows, and probably thinks creation itself is a blight and a mistake, and wants to destroy all of it.
Yeah, and just have dominion over everything. I mean, so
it's funny that the two I can think of that do sort of have that as a motivation are both characters that love eating planets, Unicron and Nihilus.
Yeah.
And Nihilus doesn't really have a motivation. He's just kind of there. But Unicron is the chaos bringer, destroyer of all reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I just remember when in Avengers Endgame, Thanos is like, oh, I'll use these Infinity Stones to destroy this universe and then make a new one. So it's like maybe the Father of Shadows would have done that and then just made one of just darkness and stuff like that. But who knows?
Well, exactly, right? And we find out Dreadwar, like on page 828, like his motives are maybe he wants to have a body again, right? So he can indulge once more in the pleasures of the flesh, which makes sense if he's a materialist as well. And also, he tells Sadao, he's like, not all are willing to shed their false beliefs as you have been, for which reason I've chosen you as my apprentice. So very much in character for Naga Sadao, being this kind of crafty, shifty, like Naga is like a snake-like creature, and I think like Cambodian lore or something like that. I forget where.
I think it's
Eastern,
Cambodian or Laotian.
Yeah, like Southeast Asian mythology. But like, so he's like a snake like character, right? He's a shifty character. Naga Sadao cannot be trusted, right? He's treacherous, and that's why, like we see in Golden Age of the Sith, he manipulates Gav and Jory, and he also manipulates the Sith Council in order to wage war on the Republic. So he's, I guess, one thing that kind of I don't know how I feel about it is like him being around 150 years before the fall of the, like, because it almost, the way he's portrayed in Golden Age of the Sith issue 2, which is where I think we first get introduced to him, is that he's like Mark Aragnos is one of his like apprentices almost. Like that's how he's kind of, but he's like lower than Mark Aragnos. Maybe they don't come out and say he's one of his apprentices, but like, you know, Ragnos is like top dog, and I think Naga Sadao is just like another Dark Lord that kind of reported to him. Yeah, he's next in line for succession, right?
Absolutely. We talked a little bit about this in the group chat briefly. This is the thing. This is my big hang up with this chapter. Is I, having just freshly reread Golden Age of the Sith,
nice,
and Fall of the Sith Empire, nice. Is awesome. My favorite.
Very nice.
Every time someone reads them, my power grows.
They might be my favorites. I really do like those two. Well, no, Redemption is my favorite.
This is my Rakfrum ritual. Is every time someone reads Tales of the Jedi, any part of it, I gain like another year of life.
Awesome. Well, you're gonna be living a long time because I keep rereading. Anyway,
that's right. I will be because of people like you.
I'm getting the omnibus here in July. I'm getting the Eula Keldroma cover too. I ain't settling for that random cover of a hut that they picked for some reason. Anyway, bizarre. In that, so when I first read this last night or 2 nights ago, I saw that and I was like, I agreed 100% with Marcel. I still think I still hold that position that it doesn't feel right, him being that old, him being that high up. But to be fair, in Golden Age of the Sith, he is clearly the other. Like there are 2 possible successors, and he's clearly the other one. Yeah. So it could be, I'm getting them all in right in a row. It could be like Mark Aragnos is Megatron, and then these 2 are Ludacris is Soundwave, and he's Starscream. So there are just 2.
Ludacris is
Ludicrous, yeah. Ludicrous
Ludicrous.
is Darth.
Ludicrous.
To be fair,
Darth
that sounds like
Ludicrous.
his sort of music. Darth Ludicrous, Ludicrous, and Naga Sadao. Naga Sadao so committed to subterfuge that he has a whole separate fortress just as a decoy.
What a
His
guy.
What a guy! His strategy for taking over the Republic is, I'm just make a bunch of fake things to make them think they believe.
He's a deceiver.
He's playing 40
awesome.
chess.
That yeah. See, there he is.
It's
Dark
Ludicrous.
Lord of the Sith, right here, Ludo Crash.
That's Rick Ollie's apprentice.
But I still am a little bit shaky on him being that old and all that stuff. However, rereading it,
I mean, I don't mind that
see
he's
it.
that old. I just wish we had
see
kind
it.
of been introduced in Mark Aragnos first, I guess, narratively
Yeah,
speaking.
no, I agree with that 100%.
I don't know.
The first intro to Mark Aragnos is him dead. He's in his casket. So it's like
I want to see him. I want to see him alive. I want to see him doing things. I wish that's my one never announced, never thought about book is the Mark Aragnos origin book.
Yeah.
Don't you just love that name?
so bad.
Sorry, Ragnos is cool, but like Marka. I just love it. Marka. Oh hi, Marka.
Marcos.
Oh hi, Marka.
Oh hi, Marka.
Oh hi, Marka.
That's
Yeah,
that was
he could have.
like an XR when Mark Aragnos' spirit showed up when they were fighting. Oh hi, Marka.
It almost seemed like Vitiate took like a back seat to see how things would play out.
Bro was just vibing.
He was
Wasn't he
vibing
way younger,
with
too?
the Rock Wizard on
The Rock Wizard.
Lesser Tana.
Yeah. All right.
Fighting
and Randon Rel.
And Rand, yeah. And
Brandon Rel.
Ludicrous.
And Ludicrous.
I'll give my take on the whole Dread War thing. I think it's pretty cool. I think it added a lot to it. Me personally, and I thought it was cool. Yeah. I thought it was really cool.
Tommy always says Exarchun would be great. Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind like him being like older and like I like this. He's learned to be this crafty individual because like if he can deceive the great Darth Dreadwar, then he can deceive anyone.
Right.
So I think it's really cool.
I like that. That's a good point.
Vitian was doing Immortal God of the Sith incarnated things. Yeah, I mean, like they do imply in the we're gonna get to that next. That's a chapter 78 thing right there.
Yeah.
Before we move on, wasn't Vitiate way younger? Like confirmed, way younger than everyone else.
Yeah,
like,
I think he was born on Medrias like 100 years before or something like that. Yeah. Sorry, Ken. Were you gonna say that?
Yeah. Well, he was like a teenager, right?
Yeah.
No, I think.
No?
But I think he was born like 100 years before Golden Age or something like that.
And Mark Aragnos gives him the name Vitiate.
Does he? Okay, yeah.
I don't remember that novel very well.
Henceforth, you shall be known as Darth Vitiate.
Yeah, so Mark Aragnos gives him that name.
Darth Oli.
Darth Oli. Darth Oli.
Darth Ollie.
He just looks around and he's like,
this whole place is one big tomb.
Vitiate.
Okay, so this part, subchapter title "Restless Natives," I thought was very strange. Also, before we get there, there was like this Naga said, I was like, finally he's going to teach me something, and then like Dreadwar's like, perhaps,
maybe,
not to a Jedi.
Or as Mace Windu says, not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, exactly.
Not yet.
But like this was kind of interesting. So, given Dreadwar's disdain for the true Sith goals, Sadao was surprised by the extraordinary arrival of the envoys of the cryptic Shadow Council. So they just like show up.
Yeah, they just and
they go and what like they'd be keeping to their dark tower, the citadel of the Dark Lords on Zios. This is what I don't get. It's like the other Dark Lords, or like the not Dark Lords, the other like Sith Lords that are living Sith Lord in this era. Are they just like they're like, yeah, like those are the true Sith right over there in that dark citadel. Just like kind of, I just don't understand the dynamic here. I guess it's not clear to me in the text, and maybe I gotta go reread it. But like they show up. It says disinterred incubi in ceramented robes, barely concealing their waxy facades.
Ugh.
So they're Kabbalistic anchorites. I love that. Brody. It's like They look like basically, I don't know, like Hellraiser. Like we have such sights to show
Just
you.
not by its. Oh,
I
boy.
feel like maybe they're like other Dark Lords just think that they're just acolytes of someone else, like that they don't know
Right.
about the true purpose of these
Mhm.
specific beings.
But they don't really come back in the narrative. Like, what are they doing on Korriban or Ziost? I guess. Sorry, like they're just vibing there.
They're chilling, just like the Lich Lords are chilling on Korriban.
Why do we never see them in Golden Age or Fall?
Why
I
do we
don't
never
know.
see the Lich Lords
I
ever
need
again?
answers.
Who
I
knows?
need answers right now.
Yeah.
Let's
I
workshop
guess
this. Let's.
I guess they literally just heard about it. It was like, well, that's their problem.
Yeah.
They're breaking the
Breaking the
seal.
seal. It's probably taking on most of the truth this time.
And-
They're literally just like sitting there, like banging on drums and
They're
Oh, the whole
Summoning
council
their-
was in Peter Parker from Spider-Man.
they're doing a rock
That's
from. They're
Yeah,
pulling a
they're-
rock from.
Yeah, and they're manipulating events from afar. It just is.
But they're not from afar. They're like literally in that dark tower in Ziost.
The closer, the better. You know what I mean? From afar.
But why did they come? It doesn't.
We
We don't even understand like why they come. None in this generation or several prior ever seen their innominable brethren from the mythic outer reaches. So they just show up and hopefully they come back
they're
into the narrative.
chilling.
I don't know.
They're chilling.
I need to know. It just seems like such a hanging plot thread. I don't
Imagine you're Mark Aragnos and you're like on the 60th year of your rule and you're going strong, and all of a sudden the Shadow Council rolls up. Like,
maybe they
who
do.
you talking
Maybe
about?
maybe they do something. I just missed it or something like that. I don't know. I
I've
don't.
got the book in front of me. All right. Over the next several weeks, he made several secret trips. When he returned, it was with a robot fleet that obeyed his every command. Fashioned years before the ancient Starforge, he gloated from across the hangar with it. His conquest of the Sith peoples came swiftly. From there were none who could withstand such a force. So, as I understand it, these shadow beings, I'm going to take a gander or a guess that they are here because Dreadwar is here. And as Dreadwar did essentially pledge himself to them before he was,
These are the true Sith, though. They're not
Yeah.
shadow beings. They're like lich people,
Yeah.
basically undead people. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I would imagine they are here for Dreadwar. He was essentially one of them before.
Yeah.
Remember, he got turned into them, and they've essentially been assisting in his conquest of Sith space.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
that's my guess. Because
No, that's-
after
that sounds
Dreadwar is defeated, these shadow beings are nowhere else to be found.
Right.
So I would imagine they are here because Dreadwar is here.
So they're
Uh,
cleaning up their own mess, basically.
Yes, and they're probably making sure that he doesn't pull another rock froom and screw everything up.
Interesting now that the Starforge also comes back into the narrative. I just don't like this part of it.
But they
I don't
say
know.
that this was mentioned that this robot fleet was fashioned before
Years before, yeah.
Starforge. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's
Okay.
just my guess. But I think
Here, Darcy says, "Who are we talking about? We're talking about the true Sith from the unknown regions, like an envoys show up on
Not
Ziost.
the true Sith, not the true Sith of SWOTOR, true Sith of Kreia saying
supernatural
true Sith,
encounters.
right?
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. Vitiate was born with darkness. He killed his mother and stepfather when he was just 6 years old. Killed his biological father at age 10, and
That's
finally
what I'm
ruled his
thinking.
homeworld at 13. Yeah,
remember when Starcrow killed his father when he was like 6 or something or 4, right?
They're doing what the nuns do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the nun just praying to open it. Yeah, I mean there could be that too, right?
I'm thinking they're
nun?
either there to work on the seals, but I'd imagine they are there to assist Dreadwar and make sure that he doesn't pull another rock froom, and and to just essentially ensure his victory over conquering Sith space, because again, everything is part of their plan. Everything is according to how they want it to go, and they're manipulating events, so they are there because Dreadwar is.
I think that's fair. I think that's
That's my view.
probably
That's a good explanation.
that. I would be satisfied with that.
Yeah, because again, when Dreadwar is defeated, these beings are nowhere else to be found ever again.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
allow it. I buy it. I buy it. And now finally we get Mark Aragnos comes into the picture.
Let's go.
He comes in the picture and immediately smashes it.
Yeah, hybrid Kasai priests gathered in secret under the leadership of their most powerful general, Mark Aragnos, and his cunning sorcerer, Naucratis Simus. I love that name, that first name. I don't know, is that within the canon before? Did we ever know his first name?
I don't think so. I think
I just reread it. Doesn't come up.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's but like maybe in like another source book or something. Anyways, Naucratis is a great first name for this character. I love it because Simus has like that Latin vibe to it, and Naucratis like just follows that and gives him like kind of like a dark. I want to be like Darth Naucratis. Anyways, so Mark Aragnos, most powerful general, his cunning sorcerer Naucratis Simus rallied the Massassi to their cause. Together they mounted a revolt of natural-born Sith against the Dark Lord, just as he was engaged in a ritual that will restore flesh to the spirit of a long-dead empress. So he's trying to bring back Kara Volsci, I suppose?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't they leave on bad terms?
Well, she still was his wife, right? I mean,
that's true.
Remember they had planned to go together on the Rock Froom and the monolith before she was like, no, I'm taking my new husband, you know? Like she said, I don't need you no more. And so
he did this exclusively for gloating purposes.
Yeah, he wanted to bring her back and be like, hey, see who's here and your other husband's not. So
bro was doing it as a flex.
Yeah. Dreadwar was more than adept in battle, as they discovered the hard way. At the time, Naucratis Simus approached Naga Sadao to see where he stood. And then Sadao just tells him everything. He tells him Dreadwar's plan. You have acted with great discernment. A lesser acolyte would have either blindly followed or gotten himself killed. I have not taken on an apprentice for some years, but I will complete your training. This is Simus speaking to Sadao.
Yep.
Sadao knew what an honor it would be to be taught by him, and as pure-blood rebels surged from Korriban to attack Dreadwar's new palace on Zyos. So yeah, I guess you're right, Max. I mean, like, it's on Zyos as well. Sadao knelt before his new master, relieved to be rid of his garrulous former one. I pledge myself to your teachings.
He didn't want to be apprenticed to Yap 4.
And then there's an interesting. Oh, sorry. I was going to say there's an interesting. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Darth Dreadwar is the last two runs of Batman. Darth Dreadwar is the Scott Snyder Batman, where he just talks infinitely forever, as opposed to the Tom King Batman, who's monosyllabic. Anyway, sorry.
I was going to say that Naga Sadao, it says that he advanced to the highest ranks of the Sith under Simus's training. Sadao raised up his own squad of assassins called the Sadawin, which I believe is SWTOR reference. He also cast off the Darth Sobriquet, which makes sense, though he maintained whatever valuable lessons he'd learned, from which he produced many perverted penumbrations later on. Here's something very interesting. Darth Dreadwar knows he's going to lose, and he forges 2 amulets that would activate upon the presence of 2 fully human Dark Jedi. I had always wondered where these amulets came from.
Yeah,
now we know.
More you know.
Dreadwar's forces finally got the better of them on the remote jungle moon of Yavin 4, far beyond the borders of the Sith Empire, where they would be trapped for a time. This is the Sadawin that he's speaking of. But in the meantime, he kind of ensures his legacy. Years of civil war passed with Mark Aragnos and Naucratis Simus fighting on until at last, Simus discovered the means to counter the spell that freed Dreadwar's spirit from Nilribma 13. At a most inconvenient time, just as he was dueling Mark Aragnos, Darth Dreadwar's body began to stiffen and fail, and with a fierce grin, Ragnos began dismembering the Dark Lord. In 5150, hey, wasn't that like 5155 is when Sadao meets Dreadwar? So it's like years of civil war. It's only been 5 years.
It's so cool.
That's years.
Okay.
Cool
51. I'm just making. Am I right about that? It's only been 5 years. Okay.
No, yeah, it's been like years.
It's like World War II here. In 5150, the spirit of Kuar Danner was forced out of his broken vessel and back to sleep on Nilribma.
Yeah, it is only 5 years.
Yeah.
Well,
but yeah, that's so badass. Like Mark Aragnos just dueling Dreadwar, and then he dismembers him. Like,
don't you want a whole book of that? Don't you want
Honestly,
a full book
yes. I want a
Marco
whole book
Ragnos
of Sith
dueling and killing?
Did he become like flesh incarnate? Did he regain his form?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He got a flesh form, and then Simus does the spell to put him back in his
And then Marco Ragnos turns him into mincemeat.
Marco Ragnos just dismembers him, and then the spirit of Quardinor is once again forced back to whence he came on Nilremba.
So is the reason why he escaped in the first place because Sadao found his books? His book.
Yeah, and then he summoned him again.
Summoned him, yeah.
There.
Who summons me? You got 3 wishes.
And then we'll see said Dreadwar again another time, but it's so funny when we see him again.
Yeah. Do you want to take a shot at this, Al? It looks like you had something to say about this comment.
Who's Dreadwar's Batman Who Laughs? Who's the most Cenobite character in Star Wars? There can only be one answer.
Of course. Mm-hmm.
Oh, what wonders we have to show you.
Look, there are chains.
Look, there are chains. I want to be like the chattering teeth one. Anyways.
That one's nasty.
Yeah, he's okay. So after the
Brody.
Civil War, Ragnos takes the pieces of Dreadwar's body and has him buried within the Great Temple on Korriban. Danar's twin amulets were given to Naga Sadao. He had misgivings about the objects and what they did, but he would not have the opportunity to investigate because there's a power struggle immediately, and Ragnos turns on Simus, who could not see him succeeding Dreadwar. And Ragnos, it says, as a great leader, and told him in no uncertain terms. When Simus told them in no uncertain terms, the point was made moot when Ragnos lopped off Simus's head, and that's why we see.
What a great scene.
Says, but having, this is on page 830 at the top, but having earlier unearthed the arcane arts of Darth Andedu, encrypted in his holocron, the spirit of Simus endured, tethering itself to his disembodied head. And Max, why don't you read us the footnote that accompanies that?
All right. Footnote 213. The Jedi, Kukruk, would use this same technique to remain alive when General Grievous killed him during the Clone Wars.
Oh, there you have it.
I've wanted to know how that worked literally since 2004-ish?
Well, what I want to know...
Whenever that episode came out.
I had a bit of an issue here. What I want to know is cool. What was Kukruk doing with these kind of teachings?
Yeah, well, there you go. Darth Kukruk. Hey, Jade, like, good to see you, man. Thanks for joining us. I actually had a question for you, Jade. If you hear this, I was curious. Have you ever read Tales of the Jedi? And if not, I think you should, because I know you're making your way through, or at least finish the Bantam era, but I think you'd really get a kick out of Tales of the Jedi.
Right, I got it.
Imagine if Dooku studied Simus's teachings.
I got it.
You know why was delving into arcane lore and why Simus is in this like little.
Oh, he is
literally one of my favorite.
He's like the evil Uru if you think about it.
Yes, we just had that conversation last week. Me and my friend Jack, who loves Uru, the guy who got me, talking about Uru for so much.
So I got an idea.
Yeah.
So, all right. So how Jedi Masters have access to like Sith things and those holocrons and those teachings. They can study it. So I'd imagine that's probably how Kukruk knew of this ability.
Yeah.
So that's cool though, because it's like Kukruk has died like 3 times. Like this guy like just doesn't stay dead, and now we know how. And then he's there all the way in Legacy. He's just chilling. He's hanging with Cade Skywalker. He's like, oh yeah, I knew your great grandfather and everything. Like, guy was crazy. Like, we go way back, me and the Skywalkers, So
yeah.
He tried to kill me.
Yeah.
So is it? So now we have a canonical explanation as to why Kukruk survived a beheading.
Yeah, bro. It's just like General Grievous kills him. And then
I know what happens now. Why Kukruk lives as long as he does, because he rack rooms the younglings that he lives with on the planet.
Oh my god. Oh
He just
no!
that's gonna be my
Well,
new
thank you
that's
for
gonna
that.
that's gonna be my new favorite word of 2024.
So
Rockfroom.
wait a minute. Like,
I have
how does-
Jade says I have indeed read Tales of the Jedi. I don't remember too many details anymore, but I remember I'm based. I mean, who doesn't enjoy Tales of the
So-
Jedi?
how does like Kukruk like dies? What does he attach his spirit to? Just his body?
Well, now let's hold on.
That's what I was wondering, because Simus attached his spirit to his head, and he just stayed in it. So how does that work with Kukruk? Because he just died.
I don't remember. I don't remember him being decapitated. So yeah, I'm wondering how like Kukruk is able.
he's just
I don't
like
think it's
stabbed.
easy to detect.
I have an
decapitate
answer
with
for
him,
you.
You know,
I mean, you could try, but yeah.
it's just a
That'd
very
be hard.
large head. You know.
Yeah.
Here's the
So-
answer.
And that neck is thick though.
Here's the answer.
I'm like Admiral Akbar.
Kukruk.
Kukruk. He's a clone, and it's the Clone Wars. Okay. No, I'm not saying he's a clone. I'm saying he cloned himself a body. And he
We got
he
guys.
pulled a
Have you
Palpatine.
seen Kukruk?
Yeah.
Have you seen Kukruk shirtless? Like imagine trying to kill that beefcake.
I
That's
know.
true. That's true.
Kukruk's a
He's a
cat.
beefcake. The dude's
have,
simply built different.
Did you see Ed, one of the editors, comment? Randon, well, not so random anymore, is a horned helmed Dark Jedi from 2 Tales of the Jedi flashbacks standing beside Hakagram Grouch and the bald Dark Jedi.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
All right.
And
I remember that.
I
I
would
remember
try
that
and
scene.
pull up
Very
the issue.
cool.
Yeah.
I can run over to the
This
to my
whole
table and get it.
Someone's
Kukruk
avatar on the
thing.
Force Sun as the image, but with Dooku's head in place of Simus's. That's pretty funny.
This
that-
whole if I may add to the whole head thing, I was thinking of Futurama with the celebrities and like the
Yes,
stars.
yeah, that's actually I was thinking of that too. Tales of the
Like, bro,
Jedi.
Funny.
This whole
So
Kukruk
this-
thing has got me thinking.
Oh yeah. That needs
It's
that
where
needs
does
to be
he attach
expanded
his
upon.
spirit to?
Yeah, this power definitely needs to be explained a bit more.
So what? Okay, wait. Let me.
Here,
I think I think I can
found
do
a picture of Rand and Rel. I found a picture.
Oh. He's pulling it up. So
Yeah.
I think what he did. So Kukruk, let's say Kukruk got stabbed right through the heart.
Mhm.
He just attached his spirit, his still living spirit, to the rest of his body.
I had if I
'Cause
may
if
go on
he's-
like a
if he-
tangent.
Oh, I know it's super small, but see that on the right hand side?
Okay.
You see like little horns there. If you blow up
yeah.
your screen, you might be able to see it
Yeah.
a bit more. Because there's like Hakagram Grouch getting served, right? And then there's like Rand and Rel right behind him. That's the biggest picture I could find. Sorry.
So from what I understand how this ability works, is you can just transfer your consciousness anywhere in your body to survive.
That's what it seems like.
To expand on your point, Max, about Kukruk like knowing this, it just seems very un-Jedi like that he would use this ability to like keep himself.
Yeah,
alive.
but then
See
again, there's like Plo Koon using like electric judgment. which,
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
lightning, but it's like it's a light side version of
Mhm.
it. So it's like I feel like this might have been what Kukruk was doing.
I guess.
So it could have been.
It's still kind of weird with maybe this just the whole Jedi Sith philosophy, like him using that kind of power. But
So look at this. I didn't know this, and thank you for providing that context, Ed. The section was complicated as Danar, Core Danar, trained Sadao, according to LaFactor X, needed explaining as well as various contradictions within Tales of the Jedi, which I was aware of. Sadao leading a revolt against purebloods against the Dark Lords. Yeah, because Sadao, I mean, he's not necessarily like he's mixed, right? Like I think he does have some.
He's a half
yeah,
blood, yeah.
He's a half blood.
the half breed.
So this says, like, I'm looking at Wikipedia right now. It says, he was quickly struck down by a slash across the waist and a near fatal overhand strike. And it says critically wounded and thought dead. He was left behind by the rescue team that recovered Ki-Adi-Mundi, Shakti, and Aayla Secura. And it says, in reality, Kukruk had entered a state of hibernation while allowing himself to heal his wounds while feigning death.
So to kind of
another interesting line here. Sadao summoning Dreadwar makes sense of Frida Nad claiming that Sadao had the power to give flesh to departed spirits. There you go.
Oh.
There's method to this madness which we would not know.
Yeah.
We should actually know because
Always a method to the
should have reread Tales of the Jedi. I should know it off by heart by now. So Al, sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, so I suppose what could have happened because that's Wikipedia's recount.
Yeah.
I to fit this around it, I suppose what happened was he basically did go. He went into what would be classified as like brain death or whatever. Like he did die, but alongside transferring like his consciousness, like the rest of his body or whatever, he also went into a Jedi healing trance or a Kryptonian sleeping coma.
Okay.
So he kind of did two at once.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
It also makes sense of why Kun retrieved the ritual to drain Yavin 4 to shed his spirit from his body from Sadao scrolls. Yeah, I mean like, that makes sense, and why he lives for all those years, sort of like in the ether.
I also want to say there is a spelling mistake with Kukruk here. At the end.
It requires another U there to show that he's
no.
Okay.
The H is before the K after in Kukruk.
Yep.
Also, aren't both K's capital?
Well, now I can't enjoy this book anymore. Stream over.
Poor Marcel.
It is cool. I love Kukruk, and I'm still hunting his action figure. If anyone has it, I'll buy it off of you.
He was in the first expanded universe thing I ever. The first expanded universe comic, the first comic I ever read, the first expanded universe anything I interacted with, he was in it. He was in Jedi Mace Windu #1, and then I saw him on the Clone Wars animated show. I was like, oh, it's that guy from that comic I read, and then he dies.
Or does?
And then I find out he didn't die.
He didn't die
anyway.
Because he rock from those younglings.
Oh my god!
And lived for another 100 years through the legacy era.
Fair, we never see him again, so yeah.
I love Kukruk though. He's a fascinating character, and he's just cool. He's just awesome. It's just this whipped Jedi. He's just this big guy. He wears a cool hat.
Why haven't we have more of his race or whippets?
Why do you think the Jedi like basically lost to Darth Krayt and don't exist anymore in any real form? Because Trasa, Kukruk, and that Chadrafan or whatever, they're all like vampires. There you go. They basically like just what's her name?
Tilly Qua.
Tilly Qua. Okay, yeah. They basically just drain the life energy out of the Jedi Order so that they could live forever.
The massacre at Ossus, like at the beginning of Legacy, was like a big like whole thing, and they
rock for a ritual.
Yeah, and they whole Cole Skywalker's like essence like is gonna power them forever. You know,
That's
like
right.
they're good. Like
that's right.
No.
I like this idea much better. For anyone watching, this is not in Supernatural Encounters. We're just making fun of Legacy and the fact that these Republic characters from the Republic comics survive well into later eras Legacy.
And they don't even give me the decency of letting me see Luke meet Kukruk. What do you do? Come on.
And you know what's actually funny is that Darth Krayt is looking for a way to expand his life. So he talks to Darth Ndedu and he says, "Ha, loser, I'm not giving you my techniques." And when all along he needed Kukruk, he didn't need Ndedu because Kukruk knew how to do it. So he could have just captured Kukruk and said, "Teach me how to do it, dude."
That's right.
To be fair, I think he probably wanted something a little bit better than being a head in a jar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he could have just put his essence somewhere else while they took off the Von Dune armor and then came back later, you know, revisit his body and comes back later.
It will go on for as long as it needs to.
He could also pull a Mr. Freeze from the animated series and become like a bug person, like put his head on a little animated skeleton thing.
Yeah.
Like with
what is Darth Krayt going to transfer his essence into the body of a Killick or something?
Like in the animated series, they say.
I mean, Darth Soros.
Let me recalibrate us back to Supernatural Encounters. So
I just want to say one more thing again.
Sure.
I'm going to reiterate this. If you have the Kukruk action figure, I will buy it.
This is why are you using this stream to try and solicit?
I need this figure. I've been after it forever.
All right. Maybe someday someone will watch this and take pity on you.
Maybe someday.
When I'm 40. Hey, I have that figure.
Hey, I'm almost 40. Whatever. I would take it right now. So,
Oh,
this truly is a bug's life.
he goes into
Lots
a
of bug
bug.
puns. So Marco Ragnos on page 830, he basically takes control at the first gathering of the Supreme Council. He lets Simus, his severed head, as we showed earlier on the stream, he lets him be like part of his council, and says the Sith will be masters of their own destiny. Sadao held back from retorting or rolling his eyes at this rhetoric, I guess, right?
I just want to say in Tales of the Jedi, I love when Simus goes to Gavin Jory's like prison cell and he just has someone hold his head up to the window to talk to them. So he's just got someone to carry his head around all the time, and I just think it's funny.
As befitting of a Sith Lord.
This adds a lot of weight to when Sadao kills him.
Yeah, because like he's his teacher now and
his
everything.
Master. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's actually a really good reflection. I didn't catch that. Yeah. Wow. It's almost like patricide if you think about it.
Poor guy.
Thinking back on it, he looked pretty torn up about it. Like maybe I'm just reading into it now, but like when I read that earlier, I was like, he looks pretty upset.
Yeah, because they essentially saved him from Dreadwar, in a way.
Yeah.
You know? Wow.
Yeah. Well,
I never thought I'd be like feeling upset for a head.
Now I just want to like pour one out for Simus.
Pour one out for our boy Simus.
My boy Simus.
Left, I would.
And we find out this little interesting bit here about Darth Endedu's holocron. It says that Ragnos ruled the Sith within the Stygian caldera for a century until his death, but Simus never did share a secret with him. Nor did he even reveal that he was in possession of Endedu's holocron, and it eventually finds its way down through the royal lineage to Deianira Grijatis from the secret Sith archives of Palpatine after his death, which I thought was interesting.
This Grijatis family has appeared like since the beginning. Remember, like back when they were the Sither, like they were still there.
Or Urethros.
Erythros, yeah. And then on page 830, leading into 831, we get a retelling of the golden age of the Sith and the fall of the Sith Empire. So following the death of Marco Ragnos, Naga Sadao and Ludo Kresh fought for the right to sovereignty. Their contest was delayed by the intervention of the spirit of Ragnos and the successful machinations of Sadao in securing the allegiance of over 80 worlds of the caldera behind him. So we didn't know that before. So he has like 80 worlds backing up his claim. But even Sadao knew it was not enough for the Electoral College. I'm just kidding. He says, not enough to sit as king over a decaying kingdom. Although the history books claimed he started a war of conquest that he could not win, in fact, his actions were founded on his desire to forestall the degradation of an empire that he loved and feared would soon fracture. So he seems like that's almost like altruistic of him in a sense, like he loves something greater than himself, because he always came off as very self-interested to me. So I don't know if that necessarily fits his character as I envision him in Tales of the Jedi. Yeah. But just one more thing, and I'll let you speak. In this, it was said that he had the tacit support of the Shadow Council.
Ooh.
Yeah.
For one thing, we actually get to see later on when they start the invasion. When they start the invasion, you do see a bunch of different worlds getting ready and like putting fake elephants on ships and whatever. Thinking about it, he does talk a lot about. Now, of course, he could just be lying to Gav and to.
I thought it was Ludo, just rhetoric, like populist rhetoric.
Yeah,
but he does talk about that a lot. So I mean, it could be a kingpin thing where he does believe he is using it to like further himself.
Yeah,
but he does believe it on some level.
I don't know. I'm skeptical. I can buy it. I can buy it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Because then we get to the Lost Tribe of the Sith. Says two of Sadao's dreadnoughts were lost. The Omen crash lands on Kesh, which we later see play out in the Lost Tribe of the Sith short story collection.
And recounted again in Fate of Jedi.
Yeah, Fate of Jedi. That's right. And then the second one, the Harbinger, an even stranger fate, with its sabotage hyperdrive crossing into a volatile hyperspace tunnel that shoots them forward 5 8,000 years into the future, where they are found by Jedi Knight Jaden Core in
Based.
Crosscurrent.
I gotta read that.
That's the plot
Such
of
a good
Crosscurrent.
novel.
So one of Nagasadow's ships that was fighting over Kesh ends up going into the future and into the future. At
The future.
88 gigawatts per second. Wait, it's not 8. It's 88 miles per hour. It's what is it? 121 gigawatts.
Yeah,
1.21 gigawatts.
There we go.
Thank you. Yeah, there you go.
Mhm.
And so we get that basis for the Lost Tribe of the Sith there on page 831, and then of course Fall of the Sith Empire.
Yeah.
Gav Daragon has a change of heart, attacks Sadow's meditation sphere, betrays him. This is all old news to anyone who's ever read Fall of the Sith Empire.
Yep.
This act of heroism would result in Gav's death, but and he would later get a ship named after him in SWOTOR. In the Republic fleet, but it forced the Sith Lord to return to Korriban, where Ludo Kresh attacks him, and then again he flees after that to Yavin 4, and put his Masasi to work constructing new temples for him, a task which he rewarded with a thaumaturgical alchemical process that mutated most of them into hulking monsters, which is what we see, I think, in the later Tales of the Jedi comics when Exar Kun lands on Yavin 4. Ed says one thing that was important was to distinguish the ancient prequel Sith, who were more like ancient Egyptian kings, from the ascetic Satanist monks of the Bainite era. And I think that was done was fairly seamlessly. I think it made a lot of sense the way that it was done. Sith marrying others, Janton Belos and Valak Kodank. The romances within the Lost Tribe, Vitiate and his family was part of that attempt. This was a civilization. Yeah, for sure. For sure. That ancient Egyptian aesthetic, though, I totally dig it. I love it so much.
Absolutely.
I was so, before Supernatural Encounters, I was torn in two directions because I love that aesthetic. I think that's one of the best parts of Tales of the Jedi is it feels like Star Wars 5,000 years ago. It nails that idea.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
But it's also weird that they're like the Sith were a species and then they become like this cult thing, like he says. However, having this broader understanding.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Can you read us on page 831? There's like 3 paragraphs. Well, one's only really a line, but it was in this period. Start from there and then read to the end of it.
Sure. It was in this period that he had a vision of the future. Ooh, vision of the future.
That's right.
Of the things he saw was the true purpose of Danar's amulets to install a human line of Sith Lords. Very interesting. To ensure this did not come to pass, Sadow attempted to destroy them in the Temple of Fire. When this failed, he sent one amulet to Ashis Ree to be kept guarded by Lord Garu, rhymes with Waru. When this failed,
right, it does.
Lord Waru, Sith Lord, and gave the other to the keeping of his greatest Masasi, who served as the high priest. I think that guy has a name, if one of you can remember. It's the guy that serves Exar Kun. It's like his henchman, I believe.
Not Zithmanir. That's like a Is it Zithmanir? Yeah, Zithmanir.
Zithmanir, yeah.
Why do I know that? I can't even remember my kid's birthday, but I know Zithmanir.
Oh, Darth Sidious said Zithmanir in the chat. Yeah. Oh,
yep. Zithmanir. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Wow.
There we go.
Oh man, I'm just kidding. I can't remember my kid's birthday. That's a joke.
Fair enough.
Yeah. As added protection for his ship and laboratory, which the temple was built over, Sadow engineered from an infant exogorth a Sith worm, and believe that's the worm that Exar Kun blasts with the gauntlet in Tales of the Jedi.
That's right. Yeah.
Such a badass scene too. I would hunt down anyone who rose in opposition of his plans. Satisfied he'd taken the necessary precautions, he put himself in suspended animation, as per his vision of the future, awaiting the time when a bold acolyte would awaken him to take the mantle of apprentice. That one would arrive 6 centuries later in the form of Frieden Nad, who was also a yapper, by the way.
Yeah, he is a bit of a yapper as well. He comes by it honestly.
Also, I'm sorry, this is like we mentioned like Waru like as a joke, but it just kind of dawned on me like that him and his his buddies are the only ones that are left of that
Yeah,
era.
And
You
not
know?
all of them are
they're the
left either.
only ones. surviving.
Inveigling people with their siren songs.
Like
Yeah.
it's just
They're yellow
crazy
flags.
that we went from such a crazy like era of the gods, and now we are in areas that we know that are
Mhm.
familiar to us. It's just crazy how far we've come. So like we were in the era of Telatni and the gods and
Yeah.
the celestials, and now we are devoid of any of them really.
It's even crazier how seamless it is.
Let's take a moment to unpack that for a bit. My perspective is that it was handled very well, masterfully. It's sort of like almost unfolded over time, right?
Yeah,
Naturally,
it did.
and we get these little hints that like slowly the mystical supernatural past is receding into the background, and that these precursor races are all kind of going away or receding into the background, or being called to the unseen realm.
Yeah.
And it's almost like in Middle Earth, how the elves eventually all go to the Grey Havens, right? And stuff like that. It's like magic kind of leaves the world in a sense, right? But it's like now we get these I'm not gonna say like lesser races, but like they're
more
children races basically coming and taking over. And I mean
we move into a more materialistic time,
right? The age of the gods is over. It's over, right?
And it's like Woodsec is alive, but he's imprisoned until Chewbacca releases him. Abeloth is alive, but she's imprisoned. The Mortis gods ain't gonna do nothing because they're chilling on Mortis,
right?
So, and Waru and Uradril and Uthaquan, they're chilling after Negath got murked by Gorog and her buddies, and Gorog is gone too, incinerated by Woodsec.
Yeah,
the Celestials have left the universe. Horlus is out there chilling somewhere else. He's the only one that's left, really. Well, Horlus and Waru and his buddies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, well, he's kind of. Is he still out there, or is he?
I think he's dead.
Oh, yeah.
Did he die?
No, I don't think he is. I think he's still hanging out.
Someone killed him. Remember?
Last we heard of him, he devoured the ricotta.
Yeah, he's still around. He's still around. Mountain.
Right. Now's chilling. Waru and his buddies are chilling, and Horlus are chilling. But like it's just crazy because like we were in an era where the universe was dominated by these fantastical beings. Like
but that was in 2023.
Yeah,
like it does feel like there's a progression. Like until you brought it up, I kind of forgot about Waru and all them. I've been so focused on this.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, that.
Yeah.
We've been
honestly forgot about the gods.
See.
Okay. Yeah.
Been so,
he's in the
been so hyper focused on all this stuff we're familiar with that we just
old he's in the unknown regions. He returns in Red Harvest, of course. Yeah, as the the virus and Death Troopers in the unknown regions.
Okay.
We've been focused on such like earthly characters.
Yeah.
Like Sith Lords and Marka Ragnos and all these characters that we know and this era that we know, and then like it feels like again in a metatextual sense because the people of this book and this universe forgot about these old gods, and so have we in our study of this history, and as we've scoured this history, we've forgotten about that era. We've moved on from it, so again it's crazy. This book is nuts, and it has happened over a steady progression of time because like we're literally walking through history and studying it as we go. So we're seeing all these deities and these gods fall and die and go into different exiles and be trapped in different places, and it's explaining where they are and why they're not here anymore. And it's fascinating to me because like there used to be so many in this realm existing at once. And now there's so little of them left. Like Typho Gem, remember that guy? Like
he's gone.
Oh, he's dead.
He's gone.
He's a bunch of statues now on some random planets.
Remember?
No, he's not dead. Don't worry. He's sleeping in
Yeah.
Relia, and he's going to be woken up one day and
Yeah.
And
dread typhagum.
and we still have Sonoma Zakat, who's technically one.
True.
Well, yeah, that's true. As Luke Skywalker says in a movie that I will not name, no one's ever truly gone.
Yeah.
So,
No one's ever really gone.
And
yeah.
I mean,
see, I didn't even quote him right. There you go. I just don't remember that movie at all.
it feels forever ago that we had witnessed the birth of Talatani and her siblings.
I agree.
Like,
that's.
I have to say,
It feels
100%
ages
right.
ago.
Yeah,
I mean, that was like
Like
6
eons.
or 7. That was like 6 or 7 big memes ago.
Yeah.
7 streams, memes. Yeah.
But, yeah, we got off on that little tangent, but I think
No,
it's
not a
it's
tangent at all. I
important.
mean, that's like literally like supernatural encounters. It's
Yeah.
What else would we talk about but that, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's important to say, and it was well stated. I know it sounds like I have like a bunch of criticisms of the area. It's just because like I'm so familiar with this era and time.
Yeah,
and
so we know
things,
it a little better.
some things like just kind of chafe. But like for one instance, it's like the next section, the haunted planet of Athos is the sub chapter heading, and it says, in the wake of the Great Hyperspace War, Sith Lords scattered beyond besieged worlds in what is today known as the Sith Diaspora. Really? Like I thought after the Great Hyperspace War, the Republic goes into the Stygian caldera and genocides the Sith species, or at least thinks that they do, because Vitiate takes a contingent of them and goes and creates the Sith Empire that we see in SWTOR. But
maybe they do, but like they just don't make mention of it. Who knows?
but it's just weird that Supernatural Encounters doesn't mention that. It calls it the Sith Diaspora, which I'm sure the Diaspora comes as a result of this genocide, but why wouldn't it mention it? I just wanted it to. It says factions dispersed to Ambria, Arcania, Athos, Vijun, Tascolan, Thule, Tund, Kesh, Droman Kos, of course, and even the unknown regions where some found and joined the Sith forces from earlier eras. From these disseminated groups, various would-be kings and queens declared themselves the ruling Janari, Shar Dakan, Zavakan, Vax, Lokes, Elko Kresh, I assume what the son of Ludo Kresh, perhaps, Vodal Kresh, Elko's bastard, Tenebrae, who should, obviously that would being Vitiate, yeah. And the Valan consort of Jantan Belos, Valak Kodank. So was this line of a single Sith ruler broken? And this, of course, goes back to this comment by Ed of Jantan Belos and Valak Kodank, the romances within the tribe, Vitiate and his family, right? Ed says the Sith Diaspora is from Abel. The attempted genocide is indirectly referenced and explained in the Star Cabal paragraph. Okay, perfect. I think that is that the next paragraph, or did I miss it completely? Let's go back.
We have to go back.
We have to go back.
Yeah.
Back to the future. It might be actually be in next stream, the Star Cabal, and it is. Yes, it is next stream. Okay, so we can't talk about it this.
Fair
Not
enough.
yet.
It was going to be so good. I can feel it.
Yeah, next
Yes, okay. Yeah, I see the indirect mention. Okay, we'll make note of it and we'll mention it next time for sure. It's the second page into chapter 78. Yeah, we're going to talk about. So Ed, you may have missed it, but we're going to talk about chapter 78. It's getting its own stream because it's my favorite era of Star Wars expanded universe, but also I think a lot of us really love the Tales of the Jedi comics and KOTOR.
Marcel, you have to wear your Starforge shirt next time.
I will. Yeah, I will.
I'll wear my Knights of the Old Republic shirt, even though it's very scratchy.
I feel bad about that Starforge shirt because my wife got it for me for my birthday one year, and she's like, "Do you like it?" I was like, "Yeah, what is it?" And she's like, "It's the Starforge." I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't notice it at first. I didn't register because it was so out of context, like her getting me something like expanded universe related." So, anyways, so it says one significant effort to reignite the old imperative was spearheaded by a triad of Sith warlords who settled on Athos. And this is an interesting story because it's, I believe, referenced in the Tale of Chama, or Chama's biographical entry in the Tales of the Jedi source book from West End Games. which I narrated on my channel. So you can go on my channel, you can watch it's called The Tale of Chama, and you can hear sort of what happens in the story. But we're told that their leader was a towering, is it Gendai? Gendai, by the name of Zengal, who bore a Titian-colored lightsaber. I had to look that up. Titian color is
What color is it?
a tint of red hair, most commonly described as brownish orange in color.
Ooh.
So he has a
cool.
Titian-colored lightsaber. He was joined by a fallen Jedi consular named Claw, which is interesting. That's probably the same guy who makes that recording in the Jedi versus Sith Essential Guide to the Force book by Ryder Wyndham.
Yeah.
There's a recording by Claw. And a pure-blooded Sith heretic known as Vodal Kresh, whom is Elko's bastard, as we saw above, potentially Ludo Kresh's grandson. Naming themselves the Terrals, conservators in the ancient tongue, they spent their lives in pursuit of a new Sith order, and not even death could deter them. For Zengal had learned the secret of Itsu Ashimud and took possession of their strongest and most devoted followers ere their own corpses were interred in the bog barrows of Ur. You know what's funny of these words like Rakfrum, Itsu Ashimud? It's sometimes when you hear Emval speak in SWOTOR, he sounds like he's saying these words.
Oh shoot!
Like he's speaking like they sound very Germanic. The words. But it says 3 young knights, amongst them the famously fearless Deveronian Chama, who is of course famous. Well, I could save it, I guess, but I'm going to just say it. Chama is famous for being the Jedi master for Ander Sunrider, who is of course the husband of Nomi Sunrider. Who becomes
and that's
Jedi,
at the end
Jedi
there.
Master.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I skipped ahead. But Chama, I'm going to... Wow, do not type Chama in by itself and then Google search it, because it's something completely different. But there is a picture of Chama from SWOTOR.
Chama Chawa.
Chama Chawa.
Chama Chawa.
Reimagining Huttese.
Mm-hmm. That's me.
Chama. He looks like such a wise Deveronian too. Like look at
look at his eyes. Just
wise eyes.
Is he the one? Is he the one who's talking with you? And then I think Bastila is also there.
Yes, I was just about to mention that because I watched this the other day. Bastila is there, and so is Nomi Deboda, which is Nomi Sunrider. She just changed her name back. But yeah. Oh, actually, they couldn't use Sunrider, right?
Yeah.
So that's why. But it is Nomi
Deboda,
and she looks really cool in that. And Bastila is there, and that guy's there.
Are we all agreed?
Is there too.
Yeah.
Wait, that's Bastila right there.
Yeah, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Are we all agreed that Vima Deboda is an obvious descendant of Vima Sunrider? And
yeah, she is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I thought this was known.
No other way.
Famous for changing their names. I don't know.
But that is known that she is a descendant. It's I was reading it the other day.
Maybe it's in like the Dark Empire endnotes. Actually, I don't know.
It's in the old Essential Guide to Characters.
Okay, yeah.
Oh.
I have a copy of that actually on my bookshelf. I should read through it.
I was looking at it the other day.
I don't have any of them.
But yeah,
I have a few. But
okay.
Master Arc is among those holograms too.
So to finish it off, there's 4 paragraphs here, and I think we can all read one. Maybe I'll pick the first one, the 3 young knights. And then Ken, you can do that was when they were struck, and then
sure.
But the dark side could be Max, and then the last paragraph we'll save for Al. So 3 young knights, amongst them the famously fearless Deveronian Chama, came to investigate the second planet of the Loro Babis system, following a life sign into the forest of Draug, a few kilometers south of the Barrows in Ur. An unnatural miasma lay upon this forest, and just as the last rays of sunlight vanished, the life sign split into 3. Reluctantly, the Jedi separated to follow them.
That was when they were struck. Waves of darkness, Kintak Duage, and the dark side web, Orojinya, suppressed the connection with light, compelling them through fear and anguish to draw on the dark side for escape.
Okay. But the dark side cuts both ways. Believing the Force had deserted him to his cruel fate, Chama tapped into his fear and anger, giving him a strength of Zengal giving him a strength Zengal had not anticipated when the Jedi fought back and buried his lightsaber into what was left of Gal's corporeal and spiritual form. And this broke the spell. I didn't know if Al was starting there or not. Okay. This broke the spell, allowing the Jedi to escape.
It would take a long period of self-exile on Harath before the stain of guilt was lifted from Chama. And this he did with the aid of a Miralukan Jedi Master, Noab Hulis. Healed, he went on to train the great Andor Sunrider, husband of the famed Nomi Sunrider.
Actually, was Andor
gives them a bunch of crystals to send to Thawne or whatever, right?
Dies immediately.
Weren't they like they were what are they called? Not Kyber crystals. They call them Adagan crystals. Adagan. Yeah. Due to the Sunrider naming controversy, Daboda was retconned as Nomi's maiden name prior to marrying Andor Sunrider. Where is that retcon? Is that in the Essential Guide to Characters? Because that's so cool. I didn't realize that.
Also,
that's really cool. But why would she change her name back?
Maybe she wanted to disassociate herself from her ignominious past as a failed Jedi Grandmaster. We don't know what happened because nobody ever wrote Mandorla. So
you don't have to remind me.
Yeah, I just wanted to. Yeah, go ahead.
I like how they say the great Andor Sunrider, and then he just gets murked by some pirates.
Yeah, but he was great before then.
All right,
we just didn't see it. We didn't get any evidence of it.
But I wanted to just dial it back because there was basically the paragraph. Forgot to link it, but so Zengal and dies right with these two other corpses. They're interred in the bog barrows of Ur. It says for 6 centuries they clung there to those decaying bodies with fearsome spells, becoming more like wraiths. And so that's sort of that's what Chama and his 2 other knights kind of like they come into this situation, right? That there's these like dark side wraiths. It told the specters that the future of the Sith lay in their religion and its adoption by corruptible Jedi. Knowing that they had what they had to do, the Turals had a distress beacon set up on a crashed trade ship from the Gank Porporite War, which they had earlier instigated through foul alchemy. So they kind of drew the Jedi to them, right, as a trap. But it eventually ended up being bested by Chama, who had a brush with the dark side and spent many years until Noab Hulis freed him, as Al so eloquently stated.
In SWTOR, when you see the those holocrons, I forgot the name of them, the Noetocrons, it's like all Jedi, like they're like the one that Chama is specifically on is Jedi who have had a brush with the dark side and come back from it. Bastila Shan was among them because she turned to the dark side briefly under Malik, and then there was somebody else who I forgot, and then there was Chama. So cool.
So that brings us to the end of chapter 77 and the end of the material that we will be discussing today. If we had continued on to discuss chapter 78, this would have ended around probably the 6-hour mark. So we are not going to do that. We're going to do that next time and give chapter 78 its proper due. I didn't think that we could spend 4 hours talking about 2 chapters, like 30 pages, but we did. We did it.
Yeah.
It's not even 30 pages, like less. But we did it because again, it's so dense. There's so much to unpack here.
And next week, it is next week that we are doing.
It is next week. That is correct. Then we'll be taking a break after next week. But we got to get chapter 78 out of our systems, or else we won't be able to continue on with our daily routines.
Yeah,
we have been completely consumed by it. Yeah. So, any final thoughts? We can anyone can jump out.
I'll amazing stuff as always. So many cool things with the Sith. So many cool things with Marka Ragnos and characters that we know, and adding more to their legend. Like Marka Ragnos defeating Darth Dreadwar is like kick ass as hell, and dismembering him just so many cool additions to the lore that we know, and it just fills in these gaps of certain things, and I love it. And it's just again amazingly written, and just so much fun to explore this lore, and now we have like concrete answers on the exiles and everything, and we get such a cool story with them, and fleshing them out more and giving them each of the exiles their due.
Yes.
You know?
Even Rand and Rel, we got to.
Even Rand and Rel, and you know, we get more on Two Like Horde, which everyone has always wanted.
Way more than I ever expected, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Two Like Horde and Dedu were sort of mysteries because we never knew where to put them exactly, and now we do. Now we know where they fit in the timeline, and we know their whole story, and it's just really awesome stuff. And next week is going to be a pretty great one as well.
Yeah. Christian, thanks for tuning in, man. Good to see you, and we're happy to have you here.
Yeah.
Anyone else with any final thoughts before I give my own?
I want to say something real quick, but I think that like these two chapters were really, really good. I never thought I'd see like the day in my life where I get to see all 12 Jedi Exiles and they're really fully fleshed out, or for the most part. Especially Tulak Horde. He's one of my favorite of the Sith, old Sith, and like seeing him fleshed out. I mean, his Darth name, Darth Carnage. How badass is that? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Carnage. Yeah.
Great.
That's so cool.
And Al, how about you?
As usual, I loved it. I actually gained a lot of appreciation for these two chapters talking with you guys, because when I first read them, I was like, I was a little bit torn. However, talking it over, I was like, nope, right calls. We're getting into the stuff that I have a lot of investment in, so I'm gonna be a little bit more cautious. But I'm very excited. I do know one thing that's coming, and I'm actually in favor of it. So
okay, wow, interesting. We'll have to see what it is next time. For my own part, I know I was somewhat critical about some of the things that I read in Chapter 77 because the character of Nag Sadao is near and dear to my heart, as much as a Sith, deceptive Sith Lord can be. But I think overall these were two fantastic chapters, and specifically I love the way that the exiles were handled in Chapter 76 and in the preceding chapters, I think like 74 and 75. That is one of the highlights of this book for me, is the way that the Jedi exiles were handled, like a top 5 we're saying. You know, I think that it was what I wanted from this book, and it's what I got from this book, and you know, everything else is just kind of the icing on the cake, so to speak, for me. I would love for Joe to one day reveal who the final 2 students at Luke's Jedi Praxium are in his first class of 12, because I think
Supernatural Encounters 2.
Yeah, we only definitively know 10, but suffice it to say, this will have to do for now, knowing all 12 exiles. And so with that said, there you go. The Darth Carnage comes from the Darth Who contest. We actually talked about that earlier, Ed. And with all that said, we are going to get our Chewbies out of here. Thank you for joining, and we will see you next time. Choppa Chowa.
So long.
Choppa Chowa.